The beloved Brooklyn Dodgers, the boys of summer, left New York a half-century ago to begin a new life on the West Coast.
Just hope for all of you, an early World Series championship team.
Left without a National League team to root for, many New Yorkers embraced the expansion Mets in 1962.
What are you going to do when we ring the bell opening day?
Since then, the Mets and Dodgers have been connected in many ways. Former Brooklyn first baseman Gil Hodges managing the Miracle Mets to the World Series title in 1969. L.A. native Darryl Strawberry became the greatest slugger in Mets history. Brooklyn native Joe Torre managed the Mets and now manages the Dodgers. Mike Piazza, perhaps the greatest hitting catcher ever, wore both Dodger and Mets blue. And then there's Manny, who happens to be from New York.
Manny Ramirez is back!
Tonight, the Dodgers take on the Mets. New York baseball past meets present on MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball next. Welcome to MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball, driven by Chevy. If you're hungry at this ballpark and you're thinking about a Burger Supreme, the place to head is the Shake Shack. If Manny Ramirez has been shaken in any way by recent developments, it doesn't show. He seems to be his happy-go-lucky self and, as ever, the center of attention. With Jim Cott, I'm Bob Costas, and no matter how you feel about it, there is no doubt that Manny Ramirez, upon his return, again becomes not only the center of attention, but a true presence, one of the great presences in any lineup.
And there's a reason for it. When you look at Manny's swing, couple things he does and always has, cradles the bat like he's holding a bird. Very soft hands on the bat. Tiger Woods-like body speed through the hitting area, but more importantly, it's how he affects the entire Dodger lineup, particularly Andre Ethier tonight, who hits ahead of him. Guys like that should get a lot better pitches to hit.
Here's what he's done in 5 starts since his return, including a 9th-inning home run last night off the Mets closer Francisco Rodriguez. David Wright's numbers are headed in the wrong direction. He is the starting third baseman for the National League All-Star team. He is still hitting .325, but in recent days, his numbers have plummeted.
Well, David Wright wishes he had a Manny Ramirez hitting behind him in the lineup. Those numbers would be better. He's trying to chase too many pitches. He's trying to carry it by himself without Delgado in the lineup, and that's the reason the numbers are down.
Carlos Delgado out until perhaps mid-August. Jose Reyes and Carlos Beltran won't return until after the All-Star break at the earliest, and that, of course, contributes to the woes that Wright has been suffering through. When we come back, we'll hear from Joe Torre, the Dodger manager who has received a warm welcome back to New York. That's next on MLB Network. Awaiting the first pitch from Citi Field, Livan Hernandez for the Mets, Randy Wolf for the Dodgers, joined now by the Dodger manager Joe Torre. His team still comfortably in front in the National League West, but it's been an eventful season. Manny now back. What did you say to the team and to him when he returned?
Well, the only thing is that right before he returned, Bob, we had a Sunday game at home, and I just sort of forewarned everyone. Actually, it was a Wednesday game at home, and I just said, guys, it's going to be a circus. You know, we're going to go to San Diego, and then we're on to New York. Just understand it's going to be a distraction, but when you're in first place, you're going to get distracted a lot. So just get used to it.
You've dealt with all kinds over the course of a long career. Is Manning in a category of his own?
He is. And you know what? He's very unlike what he seems to be. You know, when we watch some of those clips of him rolling around in the outfield, going in and out of the bullpen scoreboard in Fenway. But when you meet him and you're around him, you realize there's a certain shyness about him that I don't think anybody knows.
Why do you think it is that other guys, big stars who have been connected to steroids, have gotten a much tougher time from the public than he seems to get? He seems to be embraced.
Well, again, I think it's his personality. And, you know, the fact that he isn't a very good interview when you talk about, you know, why he was penalized and what he did. Not that he's denying any of this. is the fact that he is shy and he's embarrassed. He's totally embarrassed. I don't think he's trying to find another reason why it happened. But he was embarrassed. He, basically told his teammates that, and our owner, Frank McCourt, and myself. And even though he pretends that everything's okay, underlying there's some things he'd rather, forget and get it over with and go out here on the field and play baseball.
As you've put it, it's possible to like someone without approving of everything that they do, and there's no question that you disapprove of what went on here.
Bobby, we have children. We don't approve of everything they do, and we certainly love them. But I don't obviously don't approve what went on here. And certainly it's something that you hope youngsters learn a lesson from. But again, when we talk about, when, say, media people talk about Manny or like Alex, they talk about the issue. But when you realize and you cut through it, there are people involved with this. And Manny Ramirez is a very likable person. Not that Alex isn't, but it's easy to feel good about this kid being on the team because he does a lot of good things to help the guys around him. He's not selfish at all when it comes to playing the game of baseball.
Coming up, the Dodgers and the Mets. David Wright, Manny Ramirez. We'll check the lineups when we come back to Citi Field in just a moment. The standings in the National League West, the Giants are at home later against San Diego. They'll send Tim Lincecum to the mound, 7 down to the Dodgers in the National League West. And here is the Dodger lineup presented by the Bigs 2 from 2K Sports. With Manny in the lineup, the Dodgers are 24-10. They maintained their lead for the most part without him, 29-21. Juan Pierre hit over 400 at the outset, then tapered off a little bit, as was to be expected. And the Dodgers' overall run production was faltering a couple of weeks prior to Manny's return, so they're very happy to have him back at this point.
Well, and I think there's good news and bad news with Manny Ramirez in the lineup for the rest of the hitters, and we'll get into that. First, we'll look at the veteran Livan Hernandez, 34-year-old right-hander. Roughed up in his last start. That's his overall starts this year, 5-4 with an ERA over 4. And he's a guy that really has to have pinpoint control, live around the corners of the plate, isn't the power pitcher that he was back in '97 when he was a World Series hero. Let's check out the scouting report on him. This and that, when you say, what does he throw? A little of this, a little of that. And do you get yourself out? He doesn't have the natural stuff to get hitters out. Rough going lately, came off an outing in Philadelphia where he gave up 7 runs.
Rafael Furcal has had a good bit of success against Hernandez over the course of his career. .333 lifetime with 4 home runs. Strike one, says plate umpire Marty Foster. Chad Fairchild is at first. The crew chief, John Hirschbeck, who ejected Manny on Tuesday night, is at second. Wally Bell at third. Loop down the left field line, and it lands fair right on the chalk. Furcal will have a double. Nick Evans in left field really had no play. His only hope was that it would land foul, and it was barely fair.
Nothing you can do about this as a pitcher. Your object, take the ball off the fat of the bat, and he just pokes it down the left field line and hits it right on the chalk line.
So Furcal at second to open the game, and it'll bring up Andre Ethier. Ethier has had 4 walk-off hits for the Dodgers this year. Had a chance to be the hero again last night, but grounded into a game-ending double play with the tying and go-ahead runs aboard in the 9th.
Yeah, there's so many numbers inside a team's record, and in talking to Joe Torre, he will tell you these Dodgers have won a lot of one-run games and a lot of walk-off games at home.
At the knees for a called strike. In his last 5 starts, Livan Hernandez is 0-3 with an ERA above 6. He had started the year at 5-1. Always a workhorse. 3 times has led the National League in innings pitched. The 1-1 just misses. Ramirez will be next. And the 2-1 pitch is low.
And here's one of those examples we talked about in the open with Manny Ramirez on deck. If you're Andre Ethier, this is when you expect to get a very hittable pitch. Last thing he wants to do is walk Ethier with that guy coming up.
Hernandez steps off. He has always been a very deliberate worker. He throws a lot of pitches. You put that together and it adds up to the bane of Jim Cott's existence, the long game.
Like his half-brother El Duque, same mentality.
Settle in. And now Ethier asks for time.
Little confusion as to, of course, with a runner on second, the sequence of signs changes. And Omir Santos, the catcher, wanting to make sure he and Hernandez are on the same page with the signs they're using.
Furcal opened the game with a bloop double down the left field line. He's at second with nobody out. 3-1 the count to Ethier. Ramirez on deck. And a line drive base hit. Furcal held for a moment, and they'll hold him at third. Runners at the corners with nobody out, and here's Manny. The reception is mixed, but we have heard much worse for guys who carry the taint of steroid use. Other guys, there is something about Ramirez. I wouldn't say it's a completely Teflon quality, but more of it seems to slide off of him than others.
I think a couple reasons. His body frame has not changed. He doesn't look like a guy who's suddenly become the Michelin Man, and his numbers have been pretty consistent.
Hernandez works to him, and he hits it up the middle. Third straight Dodger hit. RBI for Manny. 1-0 Los Angeles. Ethier stopped at second as Furcal scored a double and a pair of singles.
And an example of one of the many things that makes Manny a great hitter. You look at that swing, and it's almost like he was just trying to tap it back up the middle. First and third, nobody out. He's not trying to do too much. Make contact, drive the ball up the middle, and get a run home. And he did it.
Casey Blake is in the cleanup spot, and he drops a bunt that's foul. Obviously bunting for a hit, although if he's retired, then it serves another purpose.
Now, how often do you see a cleanup hitter try to drop down a bunt? Not very often, but of course, talking to Joe Torre about the years that he managed the Yankees with a lot of power hitters, and now in the post-steroid era, we'll call it, an area where you look at more small ball, trying to advance runners, you got your cleanup hitter trying to drop down a bunt for a base hit.
Ethier at second, Ramirez at first, and the pitch to Blake is hit softly into center field. There's Ryan Church for the catch, and the runners retreat. The Mets have a lot of people playing out of position. Church has played center before, but ideally that's Beltran's position, and Church would be somewhere else. Nick Evans in left is a converted infielder. Fernando Tatis has been all over the place. He's at first base tonight.
And all of that being said, and talking to Jerry Manuel before the game, the Mets actually feel pretty good about the fact that they're only 4.5 back of the Phillies, despite missing like 9 guys. And Jerry Manuel has said it's very challenging right now to try to figure out how to play the game, bunt, hit and run, manufacture runs, until he gets those big guys back, and that could be a while.
Phillies at home tonight against Cincinnati. Jamie Moyer going for them. A ball to James Loney, who's at .278 with 6 home runs. Ethier away from second. Manny a modest lead at first. And that one's low. 2-0. A called strike. Hernandez was the MVP of both the 1997 NLCS and the World Series, where the Marlins beat Cleveland. If the ages of Cuban defectors are to be believed, he's 34. Perhaps 8, maybe 10 years younger than his older brother Orlando Hernandez.
And that postseason, of course, is known affectionately as the late Eric Gregg's world. Eric Gregg before Questek, and where they policed umpires had a plate was about 30 inches wide, and Livan Hernandez took good advantage of it.
15 strikeouts in Game 5 in Florida against the Braves in the NLCS. Behind Loney, 3-1. And he walks him to load the bases. 4 of the first 5 Dodger hitters have reached, and Hernandez shows no early signs of finding a groove.
And not much chance for this defense to work behind him with those base on balls. In the infield, David Wright, Alex Cora, Luis Castillo has 3 Gold Gloves. Fernando Tatis out of position playing first base. In the outfield, Nick Evans, Ryan Church, and the veteran Gary Sheffield with Omir Santos behind the plate.
There's a school of thought in New York that Jerry Manuel actually has a little more leeway than he otherwise might. Disappointing record, but the roster's been decimated by injuries with Reyes out and Delgado and Beltran out, and so people are a bit more understanding even in a demanding and hard-edged market like New York. Here's the catcher, Russell Martin, and that misses for ball 1.
Yeah, you can see Livan Hernandez here trying to see what Marty Foster's going to give him on the edges, and so far not much. And eventually he's going to have to come into the hitter's zone.
No place to put Martin, who takes a strike.
Yeah, I think the comment you made in giving Jerry Manuel some leeway, also his bullpen that they depended on so much with J.J. Putz and Frankie Rodriguez. Francisco Rodriguez they've never had that tandem together for a long period of time due to injuries.
The 1-1 pitch is fouled away. You can talk about the injuries, but the Mets are not a fundamentally sound team. They're a bad base running team. They make a lot of boneheaded defensive plays. We looked at Luis Castillo a moment ago. 3 Gold Gloves. I'm sure he'd give at least one of them back not to have dropped that pop-up against the Yankees.
Yeah, they've made some mistakes in the field that seem so almost like little leaguers could have made them, and they know that. They know they've played terrible baseball in the field.
Hernandez ahead of Martin, 1-2. Beautiful night at Citi Field. A little bit of a breeze. Couldn't be more comfortable. Big crowd for the Mets and the Dodgers.
For mid-July, almost spring-like.
And another 1-2 pitch. Just off the corner, 2-2.
And the Dodgers showing great patience, which I'm sure Don Mattingly, their hitting coach, there's a lot of hitters meetings now before the games. They go over the opposition and, hey, don't chase. Make this guy come into the strike zone. There's an example of it. He's trying to get you to go after a pitch outside and a pitcher's count. Martin didn't chase.
With the bases loaded and 1 out, Hernandez with a 2-2 pitch to Martin. Breaking ball cut on and missed. Big strikeout when he needed it.
See Russell Martin shaking his head, an example of a hitter getting himself out. This is not a good breaking ball. Did you see it break back down toward the inside part of the plate? It was designed to break down and away. And what a pitcher will say there, you got by with a hanging curveball.
Well, if Hernandez can get out of this with only 1 run scoring, he'll consider himself lucky. Here's Orlando Hudson, an all-star, but just 2 for his last 32 to drop his average under 300 down to 285. Hit well to left. Evans going back onto the track, and it's over his head and against the wall. It'll score at least 2 and maybe 3. Loney being waved home. The peg to the plate is not in time. Now they're going to have Hudson caught between second and third, and they'll run him down, but 3-run score on his double, and it's 4-0 Dodgers after the top of the first at Citi Field. Here's the way they stack up in the National League East. Marlins 2 back of the Phillies. The Braves have actually moved ahead of the Mets. And the Nationals are next to nowhere. Here's a look at the Mets starting lineup presented by the Bigs 2 from 2K Sports. And his biggest story here is who isn't in the lineup. And those numbers for David Wright are in part a reflection of the absence of Carlos Delgado, Carlos Beltran, Jose Reyes at the top of the lineup. As you see, last year they were all very durable. This year they've missed extended stretches, and none of the three are due back soon.
And you're talking about impact players, not just sort of part-time guys, and that's one of the reasons the Mets are struggling.
So it's Luis Castillo rather than Reyes at the top of their order. He's hitting .276 without a home run. .32-year-old Randy Wolf with a record of 3-3. He is the king of the no decisions. This is his 19th start. He has 12 no decisions already. And 7 times the Dodger bullpen has relinquished a lead in a game where he stood to be the winning pitcher. He's the unluckiest pitcher in baseball in that respect. The 1-1 pitch. A chopper towards second. Hudson has it, and Castillo is out.
And if you're Randy Wolf and you can make them put it in play, this is what you like. You've got a terrific infield defense behind you with Casey Blake, Rafael Furcal, Orlando Hudson has 3 Gold Gloves, James Loney with soft hands at first in the outfield, Manny in left, then Matt Kemp, who has a strong throwing arm, Andre Ethier in right. Russell Martin does the catching.
Here's Nick Evans, a converted infielder playing left field tonight, and had a misadventure out there. It would have been a nice play to catch up with the ball hit by Orlando Hudson, but not an impossible play to make, and he turned the wrong way at the start.
Yeah, it's a glaring example of playing out of position where fundamentally you're not used to running those routes. And the old baseball saying is if you're playing out of position, that ball will find you. It has a way of finding you, and it found Nick Evans. This is what happened in your picture. Now watch, he takes a step back. Now he turns the other way. Now could he have caught it? It would have, an all-star left fielder would have taken to catch that ball.
To the count. Talking about Wolf with those 12 no decisions, you might say, well, how unusual is that? The record, so far as we can determine, for most no decisions for a starting pitcher in a season is the 20 by Bert Blyleven, then with the Pirates, who won the World Series that year, 1979. Wolf already has 12 and has about 17-18 starts remaining. If this keeps up, he'll have that rather unusual record. Fouled away.
And when you refer to Bert Blyleven, Bert, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, and there's an example of his record that year was not outstanding because of the no decisions.
12-5 and
still
37
a winning record,
starts.
but he could have been a 20-game winner on a team that was a championship team.
Appeared twice in the World Series against the Orioles, and you guessed it, 2 no decisions.
Of course, years ago, that hurt you financially as a pitcher because they didn't care about how many games did you win. Nowadays, a pitcher like Randy Wolf, as long as he takes his team into the 6th or 7th inning and they win their share of games, it's still going to pay off for him.
Well, he's 3-3. His ERA is 3.49.
He took a long look in at Marty Foster right there as well. But both pitchers who are not power pitchers are trying to see how much of that outside corner they're going to be able to get or just off the corner.
And his 3-2 pitch. Walked it. Marty Foster behind the plate is the umpire who earlier this week had a run-in with Derek Jeter. Jeter's one of the most mild-mannered players ever in baseball. Has never been ejected from a game. Tried to steal third. Foster had third base in the game at Yankee Stadium. The throw beat him, but the tag was missed. And according to Jeter, Foster told him he doesn't have to tag you as long as the ball gets there ahead of you. And Jeter was incensed.
Right, and I can't blame him. I think Marty realized he said the wrong thing, and it was you saw the replay over and over again where Rolen did miss the tag.
So now here's Wright, who halted an 0 for 17 skid by going 2 for 4 with an RBI last night. Strike 1 to him. if a call is occasionally missed, Randy Wolf is going to be more understanding than most pitchers because his brother Jim is a major league umpire himself. But the rule is Jim cannot work the plate in a game where Randy is the pitcher.
Understandable.
They'll change the rotation in that case. I mean the umpire's rotation, not the pitching rotation. If it's his turn to work the plate and it's Randy Wolf's start, well, they're going to make sure that isn't the case. 1-2 to David Wright. And Evans scampers back. Closer this time, although he didn't slide.
Excellent move, and Nick Evans with a little stutter step just got the foot back in ahead of James Loney's tag. This is how close it was.
Now Wolf comes to the plate, and Wright takes it up and in. 3 weeks ago, David Wright was hitting .356. He's down to .325 now.
Should get something to hit here because of that man in the on-deck circle. You got a 4-run lead. Last thing you want to do is walk right.
Swings and drives one down the right field line into the corner and foul.
In fact, with this infield, talking to Rick Mundy, who covers these Dodgers on the radio and has for years, that you don't want to walk people if you're a Dodger pitcher because of that outstanding infield defense.
Another 2-2 pitch. Off speed and outside, full count. The Mets are second to the Dodgers in team batting average in the National League. But they don't score a whole lot of runs, A, because they're not a terribly good base running team, and B, they don't hit a lot of home runs. The ballpark has something to do with it. Very spacious ballpark.
Yeah, we said at the beginning of the year that you thought you'd see a lot of triples from Jose Reyes, who of course been on the disabled list a lot, and also some inside the park home runs because of the little irregularities when you look around the outfield fence and the various ways the ball can bounce around.
Line drive that'll fall in for a base hit. Evans wheels around second. He'll make it to third, and the Mets have something going in the bottom half as they try and bounce back from a 4-0 deficit.
Nice at bat by David Wright. The pitch down and away instead of trying to, as a power hitter is prone to do, pull it. Goes the other way and drives it into right center. Gives the Mets an opportunity to get back in the game.
So now here's Sheffield, who has been a very pleasant surprise, late addition just before the start of the season. And especially in the absence of the big guns like Beltran and Delgado, he's taken up some of the slack. Has gone past 500 lifetime home runs this season.
He's one of those hitters as a pitcher you don't want to look at it. You never want to look at a hitter anyway. You want to look at the catcher and the target. But he is such an intimidating hitter, the way he waves that bat and the violent swings he takes.
Ball one to Sheffield. Mentioned that the Mets, despite the high team batting average, don't score a whole lot of runs. Another factor, they lead the National League in grounding into double plays. First and third, one out.
Those kinds of averages are so deceptive. It could be a meaningless stat in baseball, team batting average, because of what you referred to. It's like team earned run average. If it's good, but you have two pitchers carrying the load, it's kind of deceptive, and there's a comparison between the two.
Those were overall Major League Baseball rankings. In the National League, they're 1-2. There's a base hit from Sheffield, falling softly into center. So the Mets inch their way back, and it's 4-1.
Well, both teams tonight up against pitchers who are not power pitchers. You saw Sheffield take the stride, wait, keep the bat back. The object against pitchers like this is don't try to pull the ball. Don't be too aggressive. Try to pull the ball. You end up hitting into a lot of those double plays you referred to. There's Rick Honeycutt seated next to Joe Torre, the Dodger pitching coach.
Fernando Tatis at 247 with 3 home runs, playing first base tonight. A walk and a pair of singles have produced a run. Right at second, Sheffield at first. And Tatis with a long drive to left. This one is hauled in by Manny on the warning track. And the runners head back.
You mentioned the spacious park, and that's what it took. Again, Tatis waited for an instant, but just got that curveball on the end of the bat. Gave Manny time to get back to the track and make the catch.
Didn't miss it by much. And now it's up to Ryan Church. Staked to a 4-0 lead. Wolf has had a rocky first. In his last start, July 4th at San Diego, he gave up just 1 run in 6 innings. Struck out 8, didn't walk anybody. Naturally, a no decision. In his 1 start against the Mets this year, back on May 18th in LA, went 7 2/3, gave up just 2 runs. Another no decision.
Well, let's check out the scouting report on Mr. No Decision. Randy Wolf. He's got his good luck charm here tonight, and that's you. First thing he did in the class, hey, you're here tonight. You're my good luck charm. I usually win. He's a guy that'll add and subtract. He'll, as he did in the first pitch to Church, a little extra, take a little off, and to me, that is the best way to pitch today for a pitcher. Put the slider in your back pocket, fastball, you can move it around, change speeds, to and fro.
His 0-2 to Church is down low.
You know, so many hitters have slider speed bats that in and out, it's easier for hitters to react. But if you can put a little on and take a little off like Wolf can do, you can be very effective.
Now, when I saw Wolf in the clubhouse tonight, he said, "You're my good luck charm," because for whatever reason, I happen to have been in the ballpark for 2 of his 3 wins and none of his no decisions or losses. Roll towards second. Hudson looks at second, decides to peg to first, and the Dodgers are out of the first. Mets get 1, but still trail by 3.
Thursday Night Baseball is driven by Chevy, an American Revolution, and sponsored in part by Pizza Hut, introducing the new Big Eat Tiny Price menu, America's favorite pizza, Pizza Hut, and Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Joe Torre is almost the perfect guy to deal with a Manny Ramirez type situation. You can talk strategy, you can talk about all the qualities that make up a good manager, but his demeanor is the single most important thing about Joe Torre.
I think that's why, even though he didn't have the success in smaller markets, Cardinals, but in bigger markets when he came to New York and now in LA, as that way of handling the press properly, handling players, not necessarily in what he does strategy in the dugout, but the way he puts players in a frame of mind to get the most out of them.
Began his career as a player manager with the Mets in 1977, his managerial career, I mean.
And I think his motto as a player transcends into as a manager. Be intense without being tense. That's what Joe always wanted to do as a player.
2-1 pitch to Matt Kemp, leading off the Dodgers' second. Tipped foul. So let's turn the clock back. Torre has a Met manager that was a perfectly horrible team. He then went on to Atlanta and had some success with Ted Turner's team. Then out of managing for a while and broadcasting with the Angels. Then to St. Louis, where the Cardinals were in transition post Whitey Herzog, and there were some payroll problems, and he had a lesser team. Liner to left that will fall in front of Nick Evans for a leadoff hit for Matt Kemp, who waited on the breaking ball.
You notice most of the hits tonight have not been like line drives. They've been soft hits because they're against a couple of soft pitchers. You know, there's Hernandez with that looping curveball, and Kemp just waits on it, didn't drive it, just put the bat on the ball and looped it into the outfield for a single.
So now Wolf in a sacrifice situation. He's hitting .094 for the season. 6 of the first 8 Dodger hitters have reached base. The top of the first ended when Orlando Hudson cleared the bases with a double that produced 3 runs, and then eventually he was thrown out. Wolf lays down the bunt. Hernandez has to practically rip it away from Santos and throws him out. So a successful sacrifice for Wolf, trying to help his own cause, and Kemp is at second base with 1 out.
And trying to tack on and add to that lead. Perfectly executed sacrifice. There's the collision Bob referred to in that area where a catcher has to make the decision, or he says, I got it, and Hernandez says, no, I'll take it.
Congrats in the dugout for Wolf, and here's Furcal, who started the game with a double. Wright is in close at third, just in case Furcal should drop one down.
And when you look at the outfield alignment, you're talking about Nick Evans, who hasn't played a lot out there. He is playing way too deep for Furcal, who is a singles hitter that'll slap it to left, but he's playing him like almost like a right-hand pull hitter. And that is probably a mistake made in the big leagues and has been for the last several years. I know as a pitcher, I always used to talk to the outfielders before the game. Outfielders in the opposite field, make the ball go over your head, because when they hit it that way, they don't hit it that hard. They loop it out there. You got time to get under it.
1-1 to Furcal, who started the night hitting .254. Shouldn't somebody be repositioning Evans from the Mets bench?
I would think so. I mean, they have coaches for everything, but you look at Church, who's rather shallow in center, and then Evans with a slap hitter like Furcal.
Throw in behind.
Yeah,
and they got him. It took a while for John Hirschbeck to make the call because he was bumped by Cora, who made the tag. So Kemp is picked off second. And look at Torrey. You know he's upset, but he's not going to chew anybody out in this situation.
Yeah, perfectly timed, and that is a timing play. Oftentimes the pitcher will look in at the catcher, and when he drops his glove, you spin and throw.
And now Furcal drops another hit in front of Evans. So he did hit it that way,
yeah,
and he did hit it in front of him.
I mean, when you look at left-hand hitters that aren't power hitters, and of course now the base running mistake, that's going to draw the ire of Larry Bowa, the third base coach. I was talking to Bowa before the game. He is so intense about his base. This guy doesn't get a good secondary lead, and he's fuming right now because he wants the runners to get a good enough lead to score, but you also have to pay attention to pickoff plays and shortstops running in behind you.
Furcal's now 2 for 2 as he takes his lead at first. And ball 1 to Ethier. Kemp, who was picked off second, is a talented player, but a guy who doesn't fully grasp all of the aspects of the game. They've got work to do with him.
Joe Torre used the expression that he just hasn't played enough baseball yet. He's a great athlete, and that was an example of it. Maybe not those base running instincts you'd like to have.
The 1-0 now to Ethier. Misses.
Yeah, the only thing I can figure out here with the Mets is that because Nick Evans is playing out of position and doesn't go back on the ball well, they're saying, I mean, he is playing right now where you'd play Manny Ramirez.
3-0 now to Ethier. Well, that's the thing you're concerned about if you're someone in Evans' spot. You don't want to be embarrassed by the ball over your head. Hudson's ball turned him around, the double back in the first. You'd rather let one fall in front of you. If you're just talking about not being embarrassed, whether that's the best strategy overall for your team is another question. Walked him on 4 pitches.
Wow.
3 of the outs that Hernandez has had recorded behind him came on a base running situation with Hudson caught between second and third. Another was a sacrifice, and then there was the pickoff. Right. He hasn't really retired very many Dodger hitters on his own, and here's Manny once again.
Yeah, and he puts himself in a position here where you know, one swing with a 7-1 lead, and the Dodger pitching and bullpen could put this game out of reach early.
Orlando Hernandez has already allowed 6 hits. He's walked 2. The Dodgers have helped him with 2 outs on the bases. And then there was the sacrifice, which I mentioned. Now he faces Ramirez, who had an RBI single in the first. Swings on the first pitch again and whistles it through the left side. Another RBI hit for Ramirez. And it's 5-1 Los Angeles. Hernandez has nothing.
There's the soft hands you talked about of Manny Ramirez. First at bat up the middle. This one, breaking ball caught too much of the plate. Manny was able to pull it through the hole, drive in another run.
As you said at the outset of the game, Jim, Hernandez is now at a point in his career with all the innings pitched. He just doesn't have overpowering stuff. He's got to be right at the edges and hope that he can get ahead in some counts, and some guys will get impatient and chase pitches off the strike zone. If they don't help him that way, if he's got to come into them, they're going to feast on him.
And what he's going through right now, and I experienced a bit of that myself as a pitcher, is when you lose some of your natural stuff, some of the power, you get a little shy about throwing the first pitch over the plate, and yet you have to be more aggressive early in the count and gamble to get ahead of hitters, because you can't get them out when you're 3-1 and 2-0 like he could in 1997.
But with Manny, each time Ramirez has swung at the first pitch and delivered an RBI hit. 2-1 now to Casey Blake, who lined to center his first time up.
See the numbers up there, and almost 50% out of the strike zone.
Another base hit. And another Dodger run. Evans will throw toward the plate. Wright will cut it off. It's 6-1. And the Dodgers have 8 hits off Livan Hernandez.
Another example, Casey Blake just waiting, takes an off-speed breaking pitch that got too much of the plate, loops it into left field. And played well by Nick Evans, but no chance to get the runner at home.
They're beginning to stir now in the Met bullpen. Dan Worthen, the pitching coach, to the mound. Tim Redding up and beginning to get loose.
Tim Redding in a position he's been in and out of the starting rotation. With a start like this by Hernandez, he may get another chance to start. Of course, Hernandez coming off a very rough outing in his last start against the Phillies,
which is part of a trend, as I mentioned earlier. Over his last 5 starts, 0-3 with an ERA over 6. And in his last outing, a big game in Philadelphia, Mets trying to do some business against the Phillies. This started them in the wrong direction, and the Phils swept them. He lasted just 3 innings against the Phillies, gave up 7 runs, all of them earned, 10 hits and walked 4. And this is more of the same. Loney walked his first time up.
Now, if this is a power pitcher, he has an outing like this, you say, well, it was one of those nights. But when you're Hernandez age and have the number of innings, there's a graphic on what he did against the Phillies in 3 innings, 10 hits, 7 earned runs. They're not going to give you as many chances to fail. A couple outings like this, now obviously the Mets are going to make a change in the rotation.
Foul back 1-2. Dodgers with 4 in the first. 2 more here in the second. Could have been worse from the Mets perspective had Kemp not been picked off second.
Another thing a pitcher goes through in Hernandez's case, and I say this from experience because I backed up third a many time like he did, giving up a lot of hits like tonight, is you lose confidence in your fastball. And actually, when you're not known as a power pitcher, you get by with more fastballs early in the game. You just challenge hitters a little bit more.
2 on, 2 out on the 2-2 pitch is fouled away.
Manny is such a great breaking ball hitter. He's an example of it, a guy that waits so long, and he got a breaking ball, I think, for both of his hits. But there's Loney in the protective mode, was late on that one on a fastball.
Yeah, you got to give Manny his due.
Right.
He has that goofball demeanor, but he is a very smart hitter.
And all of his teammates will attest to that, how he works at being a good hitter, in addition to being gifted.
Again on 2-2. And here's a drive toward the gap in right center field. Church sprinting over, and he makes the catch. So the Dodgers score 2, leave 2. And as we go to the bottom of inning number 2, Ramirez already has 2 RBIs. We welcome you back to MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball, driven by Chevy. And here are the players who are participating in next week's State Farm Home Run Derby. I thought their names were going to appear on the screen. I will simply tell you that they are Prince Fielder, Adrian Gonzalez, Ryan Howard, and the hometown favorite, Albert Pujols, who leads the majors in home runs. The Dodgers lead the Mets 6-1. Omir Santos starts it off. Bottom of the order in the bottom of the second. He'll be followed by Alex Cora and Livan Hernandez, if Hernandez in fact bats.
Yeah, the sleeper in that group you mentioned is Adrian Gonzalez. You don't think of him, and he's a very quiet superstar with a lot of power, and he's looking forward to that home run derby. It's a big production it has become prior to the All-Star game.
There are the National League participants. The American League has not released its home run derby roster yet, but if it does not include Josh Hamilton, people will be sorely disappointed. 1-2 to Santos.
The home run derby and the home run contest is interesting because it's not always the power hitters. There's another look at the National League power hitters. For example, Rod Carew in batting practice could hit a lot of home runs, as did Wade Boggs.
That'll make the seats, and the count holds at 2-2.
But yet when they got into the game, when guys weren't throwing it in there about 70 miles an hour belt high, they became different hitters.
I asked Euchre once how many lifetime homers he had. He said 156. I said I thought it was 14. He said I count the ones in batting practice.
Right.
Where apparently he was lethal.
Yeah.
Full count to Omir Santos. Grounded to short for Cobb. With a great arm, doesn't really need to show it off in this case. One out in the New York second.
Yeah, if you're Randy Wolf right now, I mean, even that, a full count with a 6-1 lead and that good infield defense, you want to throw as many strikes as you can, try to get as many ground balls, and you might avoid one of those no decisions where you come out of the game in the 6th inning or the 5th.
Alex Cora at shortstop in place of the injured Reyes. Wolf gets the inside corner. 69-degree night.
Unbelievable, isn't it, for July 9?
Little breeze blowing. None of which comforts Met fans very much. This was a team for which they had very high hopes. Already a contender. A year ago they go and get Santana. Then this year they shore up the bullpen, which was a major concern. They add K-Rod and J.J. Putz. They are under 500 and plagued by injuries. Jerry Manuel took over during the 08 season from the fired Willie Randolph. Was once the American League Manager of the Year when he skippered the Chicago White Sox.
Interesting article in the New York Times yesterday, day before. Speaking of injuries, Stan Conte, who's the head of the medical staff of the Dodgers, is they're now putting a lot of studies together to see if they can't predict or get a trend as to when players become injury prone, either through number of innings pitched for a pitcher. I don't know how they can do that, but it's a big part of baseball right now is the disabled list.
Another chance for Cobb from the edge of the outfield grass, and Loney with the nice pickup. By the way, if eyebrows were raised when you mentioned Stan Conte, that's Stan Conte, not Victor Conte, right, of Balco infamy.
Yes. Nice soft hands by James Loney on the receiving end of Furcal's throw.
And now Hernandez will in fact bat for himself with 2 outs and nobody on. He's hitting just 107 this year, but he's always been a good hitter. 9 career home runs. Foul back 9 times in his career. His batting average has been over 200 for the season, and that's good obviously for a pitcher. Back in August of 2001 he had 8 straight hits and went 12 for 13 during a stretch and hit .296 for the season,
which is the reason he's hitting right here down 6-1.
Yeah. And he bloops one into left, and it will fall for a hit. So he has done much better at the plate than on the mound. The problem is not that you let him hit. The problem may be that you let him continue to pitch the way things are going for him.
Little 2-strike breaking ball there by Randy Wolf that Hernandez just puts the bat on. Oh, frustrating for a pitcher. Chance to have an easy inning with the pitcher hitting 0-2, give up a hit. That leadoff man back in the batter's box.
A strike to Castillo. Don't mean to be all over Hernandez's case, but it's a simple fact that he has nothing tonight, and he hasn't had much over his last several starts. He's been a guy who for his whole career gives you everything he's got. As I mentioned, 3 times he's led the league in innings pitched. He has the 3rd most complete games of any active pitcher behind Randy Johnson and John Smoltz. So he doesn't spit the bit, but he just doesn't have much going for him these days.
And what he doesn't have going, when you look at his pitches, the sinking fastball, moving fastball, and there's not a lot. I'm not a big believer in the radar gun and telling you how effective a pitcher can be because of how hard he throws, but the difference in the speeds between his pitches. And that's what Hernandez doesn't have tonight. The Dodgers are just laying back and basically putting the bat on the ball. Not trying to do too much with it, so he needs a little more differential and put a little on, take a little off, like Randy Wolf tries to do.
3-1 now to Castillo. Wolf normally has sharper control than this. That one's in there, full count. Wolf has walked one through the first inning and 2/3 of work, but he's been behind several hitters and had a number of 3-ball counts, including now. Hernandez goes in leisurely fashion, and he walks Castillo.
Boy, that is, yeah, he's frustrated. He wants the ball back, but that's, I remember asking the great Robin Roberts, Hall of Famer, years ago, how do you pitch Willie Mays? He said, tell me the inning, the score, and the count. Pitch to the scoreboard. And when you got a 6-1 lead against a team that is struggling, the last thing you want to do is give them a free pass like Randy Wolf did there.
Here's Evans, who walked in the first. Well, Robin Roberts was a guy who won 20 games year in, year out, eventually wound up in the Hall of Fame, and was always among the leaders in most home runs allowed, but the vast majority of those home runs were bases empty home runs with a lead, with a big lead.
Exactly.
1-1. Pitch count mounting now for Randy Wolf.
Yeah, not enough differential there in strikes and balls, particularly when you have a 6-1 lead.
Ahead of Evans now, 1-2, but this next pitch will be his 50th as he tries to get out of the second inning.
Best pitcher I've seen in the last decade, or maybe 12, 14 years watching and covering Major League Baseball with a lead, was David Wells. He had a lead like this, he was going to fill that strike zone with fastball strikes and make you earn it.
The 1-2 pitch again fouled off.
And
another guy you might mention, Jack Morris.
Yes.
Here was a guy, if you needed to win 2-1,
right,
he beat you 2-1. If he was up 7-2, he might win the game 7-4.
That's why I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He was not interested in earned run average, but he pitched 3 teams to world championships and pitched one of the great game 7s in Major League history in 1991.
That one's blocked by Martin, but Hernandez, the lead runner, wasn't going anywhere in any case. Levon is at second, Luis Castillo at first. And the 2-2 pitch to Nick Evans. Bounce back to Wolf. Underhands it to Loney. The Mets leave 2, and after 2, they trail it 6-1. Wolf shaking his head, though. Shaky second inning for him. Joe Torre, who turned 69 on July 18th, now sits in 5th place all time for most managerial wins, trailing Connie Mack, John McGraw, and contemporaries Tony La Russa and Bobby Cox.
Quite a resume for a guy who, when the Yankees decided to hire him, didn't know which way to turn, who to hire, and the Yankees were criticized heavily. Big headline, Clueless Joe, because he had not had a lot of success, and suddenly since then he's compiled a Hall of Fame resume.
Russell Martin struck out his first time up, starts the Dodger third, and takes strike 1 from Hernandez. We mentioned Levon's older brother, Orlando El Duque Hernandez. He didn't pitch in the American major leagues until he was well past 30. He was one of the all-time great Cuban pitchers, with a record of 129 and 47 lifetime in Cuba, the top winning percentage. Speaking of Levon's brother, Orlando. Right now, he is with the Rangers AAA affiliate at Oklahoma City, where when last we checked, he was 2-0 with a decent ERA. So he may be back in the majors before long. Martin lines it sharply, but right at Tatis at first base.
And that's what happens when you throw strikes and get ahead of hitters and make them put it in play. Every now and then they hit it at somebody. Yeah, I just missed seeing El Duque a couple weeks ago, or not even a week ago, in Iowa, pitching against the Iowa Cubs when I appeared there at the Bob Feller museum. He was, and Josh Hamilton was slated to play in that game too on a rehab
assignment.
Right.
That would have filled the park. Here's Orlando Hudson. First pitch swinging. Tatis underhands to Hernandez. And the third inning opens in atypical fashion, at least based on what we've seen so far tonight from Hernandez. Hudson, who had cleared the bases with a double his first time up, driving in 3, is retired here. The broadcasting cliche always goes, for those of you scoring at home, I don't know who scores at home anymore, but if you were, on the bases loaded double by Hudson, which wound up ending the Dodger first, he was thrown out 7-6, 2-5-3, just to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Here's Kemp. A ball and a strike to Kemp, who singled his first time up, was sacrificed to second, then was picked off second base. And I mentioned at that time that Joe Torre's not going to blow his top. He took a look at him at that moment, completely placid in the Dodger dugout. That doesn't mean he won't speak to Kemp, but he'll speak to him behind closed doors, and he'll try to make it a teaching moment rather than one where he just airs the guy out.
Well, that is Joe's strength as a manager, is the way he handles the players. His early years of the Yankees, he had a great bench coach in Don Zimmer, and Zim, you know, would feed a lot of information into his ear on strategy.
Hits softly into right. Castillo out. Sheffield in. It falls between them for a 2-out single for Kemp. Here's the play we were talking about back in the second.
Yeah, the Dodgers did go on to score, but you see wandering off second, nice timing play between Hernandez and Cora, and got him easily.
So Randy Wolf is the hitter. He sacrificed his first time up. Swings on the first one, bounces it toward the hole. Castillo makes the play, and a whirling throw from the outfield grass to retire Wolf. But from the Dodger perspective, at least that gets him out of the way, and they'll start the fourth with the top of their lineup. And we head to Hazel May for an update. Hazel. Pepsi, the official soft drink of Major League Baseball, congratulates Tim Lincecum of the Giants, who the fans have voted June's MLB Clutch Performer of the Month. Learn more about the MLB Clutch Performer of the Month award at pepsiclutch.mlb.com. Heart of the order for the Mets in the bottom of the third. They trail it 6-1. They'll send up David Wright, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Tatis. Wright singled his first time up. He's now 3 for his last 5, and that is noteworthy because prior to that he'd been 0 for 17. Fastball on the inside edge for a strike. That one missed. Another base hit for David Wright. So perhaps regaining his all-star form as he prepares to start at third base for the National Leaguers Tuesday night in St. Louis.
Well, both hitting coaches should be pleased tonight. Howard Johnson for the Mets, Don Mattingly for the Dodgers, because against these two pitchers, the hitters have taken that approach. Don't get overly aggressive and get caught out front, but take the ball the other way. David Wright has done it in both of his at-bats. There's Hojo.
Sheffield had an RBI hit his first time up. Strike one to him. When you've been around as long as Sheff, and you've had as illustrious a career as he has had, you're going to find yourself on some interesting lists. There's a strike at the knees, which Sheffield disagreed with. And the 0-1 pitch from Wolf. So here's one of those lists. 3 men in baseball history have homered while a teenager and then after the age of 40.
Ooh, I think I know the answer to that.
Go ahead, have at it.
Ty Cobb, Rusty Staub, and Gary Sheffield.
Yep. Cobb, Staub, and Sheff.
Yeah. I forgot about Sheffield. That was always a great trivia question for Rusty and Ty Cobb.
Ethier backpedaling and right. Takes it for out number 1. Now here comes another list. Players with more than 500 career home runs, more than 1,500 career RBIs, better than 2,500 career hits, and then when you throw this one in, which does admittedly make it a little random, more than 200 stolen bases. There are 6 players on that list. Mays, Aaron, Frank Robinson, Barry Bonds, Reggie Jackson, and Gary Sheffield.
That's very cool company.
Fernando Tatis.
Baseball, more than any other sport, thrives on those kind of comparisons. And I always think when you see who's the greatest player, there's the numbers Bob was talking about. Was it Aaron or Mays? The guy you always forget about is Frank Robinson, who was right up there with them in terms of his numbers.
A ball and a strike to Tatis. I always felt that Frank Robinson was the most underrated great player of his generation. For a long time they said that of Roberto Clemente, but then Clemente reached 3,000 hits, and the heroic fashion in which he died made it clear to everyone what he was as both a player and a person, and so he was no longer underappreciated. Frank Robinson may still be on the list of all-time great players. He's clearly recognized as a first-rank Hall of Famer, but his name is not included as often as it should be in the discussion of the very best players of his generation.
He will never be underappreciated or overlooked by me, because I had to face it. And I remember when he came over to Baltimore in 1966 and literally, was the MVP, Triple Crown, led that team to the World Series with his style of play. Willie Mays had a flash and dash. Hank Aaron, an elegant approach. Frank Robinson was tough and mean and competitive and good.
The 2-2 to Tatis is fouled off.
He was notorious for getting second basemen to get out of second base in a hurry because they knew who was sliding in there.
Stood right on top of the plate. His left elbow almost on the inside corner. I don't know how many times Don Drysdale knocked him down or hit him, but a number of those times Robinson came back and homered off of him. Tatis sent Ramirez to the warning track for his long drive in the first. Whips this one down the left field line. It drops in for a hit. An extra base hit as he slides in safely with a double. Wright winds up at third. So the Mets with runners at second and third and 1 out in the third as they try and chip away at a 6-1 deficit.
Yeah, and a nice aggressive base running by Fernando Tatis. Takes a breaking ball down and in. Dangerous pitch from a left-hand hitter to right-hand batter. You just drop the barrel on it. With that spacious left field and Manny tracking it down, you see Wright coming into third and Tatis in the upper part of your screen hustling in to get into scoring position and take the conventional double play out of play. You see David Wright there saying, watch the line drive. For the Mets, 1 base hit from getting back in it.
Church grounded out his first time up. Slow breaking ball for a strike. So a base hit here would make it interesting again. Foul ball. 0-2. We're in the bottom of the third in a game that's already an hour and 10 minutes old. Still 0-2 to Church. The Mets as a team probably looking forward to the All-Star break. They need to kind of take stock. They've got some players who still need to get healthy. They're limping toward the midseason break. Furcal backhands. Gets Church and a run scores. Wright crosses. RBI for Church. Tatis to third. 6-2 Dodgers. With the 2009 season in full swing, nobody covers every team in every game like MLB Tonight. All of baseball all night long on MLB Tonight. Weeknights starting at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, only on MLB Network. Omir Santos now. Fouled out of play. The Mets have 5 hits through 2 2/3. They are not a team that hits a lot of home runs. They have only 50 home runs, the fewest in the major leagues. Gary Sheffield leads them with 10. And as we've noted, the absence of Delgado and Beltran explains some of that. So does this ballpark, Citi Field.
Yeah, it's a park built more for Jose Reyes, who's also on the DL. The Mets do steal their share of bases, 3rd in the major leagues. But it's a park where you get a lot of doubles, triples.
So the Mets have gotten production, as we look at this, out of Omir Santos and Brian Schneider. Ramon Castro as well. Two and 2 now to Santos, who grounded out his first time up. Tatis at third with 2 down. And Santos hangs in. Randy Wolf may have some difficulty dealing with prosperity. He has been much sharper in the past when the Dodgers haven't given him as much support as they've given him tonight. He's still up 6-2, but he hasn't really been sharp staked to this big lead. He does fan Santos, however, to put an end to the New York third. The Mets settle for 1 and trail by 4 after 3. Manny Ramirez due up third in the Dodger fourth.
Well, MLB Network is the best reason to stay home on Saturday night. It all starts at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, when the Braves battle the Rockies on Saturday Night Baseball. And then at 11, MLB Tonight gets you caught up with every game across the league. It's all of baseball all night long, Saturday night on MLB Network. Livan Hernandez back to work in the top of the 4th inning, with the Dodgers leading 6-2, and he'll face the top of the lineup. Rafael Furcal will lead it off and drives this to right field, and that twists Sheffield around, and Furcal will have a leadoff double. Gary Sheffield in right field got turned around and didn't get a good read on Furcal's line drive. High fastball, and jumps on it, spins Sheffield around right there, and with a proper turn would have been a catchable ball, instead a leadoff double. And the Dodgers again with a runner in scoring position.
So here's Furcal, 3 for 3 now, a pair of doubles and a single. Wouldn't you know it? You have to leave the booth for a minute. The leadoff man hits the first pitch for extra bases. Ethier has singled and walked. Ramirez awaiting his turn next. He has a pair of RBI singles tonight. You know, I said to Vin Scully once, Vin, you work alone, no partner. You've been around a long time. At this point, he was maybe 75 years old. He's a marvel at 81, still on top of his game in LA. Vin, what happens if the game goes 17 innings and nature takes its natural course? Foul back. He said, Bob, I've trained myself for situations like this. And that's what makes him Vin Scully. But the rest of us occasionally succumb.
Right.
Hernandez to Ethier on 1 and 2 eventually. Got him swinging. Second strikeout for Hernandez, and here's Manny in another RBI spot. Man at second, 1 out. Some Dodger fans in evidence. A smattering of boos, but there's not a terribly negative reaction to Manny, just as there was not in San Diego. He has yet to play a home game for the Dodgers since his return from the 50-game suspension.
You visited with Joe Torre prior to the game tonight and asked him about the reaction to Manny. And I think, again, one of the reasons that Manny is not vilified like, say, a Barry Bonds or even a Roger Clemens or some of the others is that his numbers haven't changed, nor his body type.
Well, we've learned, however, that you don't necessarily have to have the cartoonish body type that some had in the early stages of the so-called steroid era to be a steroid guy. We've found that out.
And one of the things, speaking strictly as Manny as a hitter, check out the hands and how soft they are on the bat. Even sometimes he'll wiggle his fingers. You see that right hand, and that's the key, I think, for any sport. Whether you're a pitcher, you want a soft grip, a golfer. I'm sure basketball shooters and hitters are the same way. Soft hands or quick hands.
This is a 3-0 pitch. Well, his first 2 times up, Ramirez hit the first pitch from Hernandez for RBI singles. Here, Levon wasn't going to give him anything to hit. 4 pitches, none of them close.
He had a parking place for him at first base. And here's the first 2 hits. First and third, nobody out, takes it up the middle, and then gets a hanging breaking ball in the inside part of the plate and pulls it.
So 2 on for Blake, who's lined to center and had an RBI single. One thing about Hernandez, if you let him, he'll give you the innings. Whether they're all sparkling innings at this stage of his career is another question.
Like his half-brother trained in Cuba, where when they gave you the ball, the object was to pitch the entire game.
A ball and a strike to Blake. Fakal, who doubled, is at second. Ramirez, who was in effect intentionally walked, is at first. Larry Boa, the Dodger coach, at third. Mariano Duncan on the lines at first. The 1-1 pitch to Blake. Breaking ball lined right at Castillo. Do they double him off? They do not. Fakal dives back in and is ruled safe. Castillo with the catch and the quick flick to Cora, but they couldn't quite get him.
Yeah, Castillo with the flip toss, and it sure appeared that the ball was there in time. Jerry Manuel out to take up the argument.
He's out.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He's out.
And John Hirschbeck had such a clear look at it. I mean, the play was right in front of him, and again, just blew the call.
The conversation, for the moment, very civil.
Jerry's a pretty civil guy, deep thinker.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. He was backing away, and now something got his attention again.
Almost like Hirschbeck took up the argument. Umpires don't have the benefit of 2 or 3 looks like we do, but that appeared even from here that the throw was there in plenty of time.
One more time, but there's no doubt about it. Cora's there before Furcal's hand gets to the bag. So the Dodgers already leading 6-2, get a break. The inning is sustained, and here's Loney. James has walked and flied out. Two and 0 now. Took something off, and Loney was out in front.
A hitter's count, looking fastball, and got a good changeup.
This will be the 72nd pitch thrown by Livan Hernandez as he tries to get out of the top of the 4th. Three and 1. Furcal with his lead at second. Ramirez away from first. And Hernandez works to Loney and walks him. So now they're loaded up for Russell Martin.
Boy, you look around, we have the opportunity to look at the whole field and watch the Mets players behind Livan Hernandez. And it's so frustrating for position players to play behind a pitcher like this. You mentioned, what, 74, 75 pitches, a lot of deep counts, and everybody kind of caught back on your heels, which is why you see more sparkling plays played, you know, made behind guys that work fast, throw strikes, keep everybody on their toes.
Furcal at third. Ramirez now at second. Loney the runner at first. 2 walks in this inning, 4 in the game, issued by Hernandez, who's also been clipped for 10 hits. Bounce foul. Martin is struck out and lined to Tatis at first base. That bullpen was quiet until just this moment. Descends getting up. But they're hoping to milk another inning or 2 out of Hernandez if they can. 1-1 the count.
Yeah, in its simplest form, the game of baseball is who's going to be in control, the pitcher or the hitter. And when you see someone work as deliberately as Hernandez and behind in the count, he automatically gives every hitter the impression that this guy's not confident in what he's doing. He's unsure of himself, as opposed to the pitchers that get the ball, throw strikes, work fast, keep the hitters on the defensive.
Breaking ball lined by Castillo. That scores 1, and now 2 as Ramirez heads for the plate. Out at third base, however,
wow,
is Loney, and that's the 3rd Dodger erased on the bases. Or it could possibly be worse for the Mets. Torrey's going to argue this. The Dodgers are up 8-2. Russell Martin with a pair of RBIs, but the inning ends with Loney pegged out at third. Torrey's Dodgers lead 8-2. They've had 3 men cut down on the bases. Might have had 4 for Kyle was actually out earlier and called safe. Here's Sheffield on the base hit by Blake with a 3-bounce throw to third and right with the tag on Loney. And Wally Bell says, "You got him." Look at Larry Bowa's reaction, clasping his hands up around his head.
The umpire's been right in the middle of it on some close plays. Wally Bell a little blocked off there and could not see James Loney's hand get in before the tag by Wright. Let's see, David Wright missed him with the first tag, and Loney and Bowa react quickly.
So in the 4th for the Dodgers, the umpires giveth and the umpires taketh away. They missed a call where for Kyle should have been out at second, and he was ruled safe. And here it appeared that Loney was in safely at third, and Wally Bell punched him out.
Yeah, these are the kinds of innings. I mentioned Robin Roberts before, the great Hall of Famer, that when asked how you pitch Willie Mays, tell me the inning, the score, and the count. You might not even use signs if you're Randy Wolf and just say, let's see if we can get through the next 3 guys in about 8 pitches. Make them earn it.
Alex Cora sends one down the left field line. Ramirez over, sliding into foul ground, and it falls safely.
Yeah, tough foul lines here for outfielders because of how close that retaining wall, that wall is to the foul line. And you see Manny, to break his speed, does a little slide, and the ball falls in foul territory.
So the count 0-2 to Cora. Argenis Reyes is in the on-deck circle, so Livan Hernandez is apparently done for the night. Loney with the flip to Wolf. It was high, but a nice play by Randy Wolf to gather it in and step on the bag. So Cora's now 0 for 2.
Nice reaction by Wolf. James Loney wanted to throw it with a little more on it, and it almost slipped out of his hand like a bar of soap. Threw him a little alley-oop, but a nice reaction by Wolf to make the catch, the tag, and avoid getting spiked.
Here's the switch hitter Argenis Reyes batting for Hernandez. Strike 1 to him. Fouled away. Let's go back to last night and a play Daniel Murphy made at first base for the Mets. The ball will hit the first base bag, caroms towards second. Murphy comes up with it. The behind the back blind flip to Parnell covering.
And for a guy who's not known for his fielding ability, remarkable.
I don't think I've ever seen a play quite like that by a first baseman in that exact situation. All hail Daniel Murphy from the Met bench last night. The 1-2 pitch.
That's the kinds of plays we were accustomed to seeing years ago when Omar Vizquel and Roberto Alomar were a tandem at second and short for the Indians.
Yeah, you'll see that by middle infielders, and it's remarkable enough there, but by a first baseman with the pitcher covering, off-speed breaking ball just misses. Full count now. With the pitcher covering, and after the ball had hit the first base bag, so Murphy is starting toward the line to make the play. It goes in the other direction. He comes up with it, then flips behind the back. That was really something. Another 3-2 pitch to Reyes. Here's Hudson. 2 out on the New York 4th. The Stars may be in Hollywood, but the All-Stars are in St. Louis, and MLB Network will take you there. It starts Monday with All-Star batting practice live. Then on Tuesday, catch the All-Star Red Carpet Show and special behind-the-scenes coverage of the 2009 Major League Baseball All-Star Game, beginning Monday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on MLB Network. I've never understood what the coverage is supposed to be like at the All-Star red carpet show. Here's Ryan Howard wearing Ralph Lauren. Very slimming on the stocky first baseman. I don't get it.
But we will.
Yeah, well, 1-2-3 for the Mets in the fourth as Castillo is retired. Maybe Hazel May can sort it all out back at our MLB Network studios. Sunday, starting at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, Quick Pitch brings you a lightning-fast roundup of this weekend's games and series. Then you can get unprecedented access inside the Phillies bullpen with back-to-back airings of our MLB Network original series, The Pen. Don't miss an encore presentation at 8, followed by an all-new episode at 8:30. It's all of baseball all night long this Sunday night on MLB Network. The new Met pitcher is Pat Mish, picked up on waivers from the Giants in early June. Those are his combined numbers for the season. Pitched a third of an inning on Tuesday night in an 8-0 loss to the Dodgers that began this series. Has been very effective as a Met, allowing only 1 run in 8 2/3 innings of work. Orlando Hudson turns around to the right side with Mish on the mound and takes a strike. Cleared the bases with a double that produced 3 runs in the first. Grounded out his second time up. 0-2 the count. Did he go? Yeah.
By plenty.
Stays alive as he squibs that one foul.
Even in games like this, important for every big league player, there's always a reason to do well and look good. In Pat Mish's case, the way Livan Hernandez struggled, why you go out there and string 3 zeros up and impress Jerry Manuel, might get a start out of it down the road.
Up and into Hudson, who has been dropped to 7th in the lineup. He had generally been hitting 2nd or even 3rd. He's made the All-Star team as a backup to the starting second baseman Chase Utley. But he came in tonight just 2 for his last 32 before doubling with the bases loaded in the first. Cora to his left, and he throws Hudson out. And this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. But you knew that, didn't you? Here's Matt Kemp, who has singled twice tonight. Picked off at second after his first base hit in the second inning. Randy Wolf, the pitcher, waits on deck.
Mish already an improvement for the Mets fielders playing behind him. He's got nice quick motion, quick feet, throwing a lot of strikes, getting ahead of the hitters.
Quite a contrast to the guy he replaced on the mound. And now Kemp backs out. Mish made his first major league start in August of 2007 at San Diego for the Giants. That happened to be the game where Barry Bonds hit career home run number 755, tying Hank Aaron on the all-time list. Backhanded grab at shortstop by Cora for the second out.
Breaking ball down and in. Again, dangerous pitch, and Kemp hits it well, but Cora there to make the backhand grab.
Mentioning that home run number 755 by Bonds, we might as well say it in a game that features Manny Ramirez. Now that all the evidence is in and some sense of perspective has settled over the whole baseball scene, I think we ought to just declare that the authentic single-season home run record is Roger Maris's 61, and the authentic career record is Hank Aaron's 755.
You get a lot of arguments on that, but I think
not from anybody who's paying reasonable attention.
Right, but you're right. I think the only thing we do in this, we call it the steroid era, and that's what it was. I mean, baseball turned their back on it for years. They could say they didn't know what was going on, and I think we're all to blame. We knew it was going on, and we turn the page on that and move on. But
a 1-2-3 inning from Mish out of the bullpen, a welcome relief for Jerry Manuel and Dan Worthen as he fans Randy Wolf to make quick work of the Dodgers in the 5th. Welcome back to MLB Network's Thursday Night Baseball, driven by Chevy. Just a gorgeous night in New York. Big crowd at Citi Field. This is a pretty ballpark. Nice place to watch a game. About 6% of the tickets here are in the $200 to $500 range, about 2,500 of the seats. About 30% of the tickets here go for $25 or less, with the lowest being $11. Nick Evans has walked and grounded out. Randy Wolf needs 3 more outs to qualify as the winning pitcher, with a 6-run bulge to work with here. Evans skies one to right. Ethier toward the line, makes the catch, crossing over into foul ground.
much more efficient and effective now is Randy Wolf, starting with the last inning where he had a 1-2-3 inning and probably 8 or 10 pitches. And nice play by Ethier again with that outfield wall coming up in a hurry. Concentrate on catching the ball and then bracing yourself.
Wright has singled twice. Second consecutive 2-hit night and looking for more. Trying to come out of a tailspin. And showing some promising signs.
Yeah, the mentality for Randy Wolf should be right. It should be for any pitcher, but not just get wrapped up in what you're doing, but take a look at what this could mean to the team. In terms of the strength of the Dodger team, when you look at their record, they don't have a lot of hitters up in leading categories in the league, but it's their bullpen. And tonight is the kind of night with an 8-2 lead, you say, boys, take the night off. Let me take you deep in the game, or maybe pitch the whole game.
Rolled toward third. Here's Casey Blake, and Wright is retired for the first time tonight.
Manny, of course, one of the leading hitters in the National League. Kemp has a couple hits tonight, but when you look at the overall stats, you don't see any of those names in the top 10 and league leaders for any categories. Pitching and defense.
Sheffield with an RBI single in the first, then he flied out. Takes strike one. Casey Blake in the cleanup spot for the Dodgers these days. James Loney, their first baseman. A shot over the leaping Furcal, and there's a ball that barely cleared the shortstop and was hit so hard that it goes all the way to the wall for a 2-out double, snapping a streak of 7 in a row retired by Wolf. That was a blur.
And that's the intimidating swing of Gary Sheffield. That pitch down in the strike zone and hits it like a 2-iron. Just over the leaping Furcal, and before Manny can retrieve it, Sheffield has a 2-out double. There's the bat speed of Sheffield.
At age 40, doesn't seem to have lost much in terms of that bat speed. Here's Tatis. Flied to deep left and double. Sheffield at second with 2 down in the 5th. Big swing and a miss, 0-2. You know, sometimes you'll hear someone say, Bob Gibson say, you know, Hank Aaron hit a ball off me so hard that it went over my shoulder. I barely missed catching it. I turned around and cleared the center field fence.
Yeah.
And that seems a little overblown.
Well,
but there was a ball that truly barely cleared the shortstop's outstretched glove, and it went all the way to the wall. Not on the fly, but hit hard enough to split the outfielders and go to the wall. Tatis tips it back into Martin's glove. He's a strikeout victim. And Wolf perhaps settling in now. Completes the 5th with an 8-2 lead.
Thursday Night Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. The difference is drinkability, and Castrol GTX high mileage. Because the longer your engine lasts, the more it pays you back. And Gillette Fusion, Gillette's closest, most comfortable shave.
The top of the 6th and the top of the Dodger order. Here's for Call, who is 3 for 3. A single and a pair of doubles. Switch hitter now batting right-handed against Mish, who worked a 1-2-3 fifth. Ethier next, and then Ramirez. On 4 pitches, Furcal is aboard for the 4th time. As Jerry Manuel looks on, let's cue up a bit of tape here. And admittedly, this is somewhat out of context, but there have been times this year when the 2009 Mets have looked more like the 1962 Mets than the team with the highest payroll in the National League and a team counted upon to be a solid contender in the National League East. Ethier is singled, walked, and struck out.
Yeah, it's not just the errors, it's the misplays. You mentioned a while ago team batting average. There's so many stats like that that are deceptive and misleading, but it's things like 2-out hits, getting the runners in from third with less than 1 out, and making just the routine plays.
Bad base running, grounding into a lot of double plays.
Yeah,
not too much power, as we mentioned.
If you can, over the course of a season, do the ordinary things in an extraordinary fashion, just the normal things, you'll usually get the most out of your ability and out of your team.
Strike 1 to Ethier. After Mish had opened the inning by missing with 6 straight. And he's 2 for 2 with a walk. He'll have another chance in a minute. Three balls and a strike. Right-hander Brian Stokes is throwing in the Met bullpen. That one's in there, full count. There is Stokes. Appeared in Tuesday's blowout loss against the Dodgers and was cuffed around a little bit. Still 3-2. The Mets have the 6th, 7th, and 8th hitters due in the bottom of the 6th. So if anybody gets on, they're going to bat for Mish, which is why Stokes is throwing right now. And another 3-2 pitch. Bounce towards short. Cora gets one to Castillo. Can they turn it? No. So for Kala's a race 6-4. And Ethier becomes the runner at first.
Nice play by Cora on that high hop. Quick shovel toss over to Castillo. No chance to get two. And Jerry Manuel wants a right-hander to face Manny Ramirez.
You know, I hadn't taken that into account. I'm thinking, well, they're getting Stokes ready in case they hit from Mish. Well, he doesn't want the left-hander to face Manny. So Stokes will get that dubious privilege. And we'll be back in a minute. As Manny Ramirez strides to the plate with his next home run, he'll tie Mickey Mantle on the all-time list. Last night he went by Jimmy Fox. Mike Schmidt is just ahead, and Jim Thome, of course, is still active. Two for two, a pair of RBI singles and a walk. Stokes works to him and moves him away a little bit. Brian Stokes coming in for our new era pitching change. We asked the people at the Elias Sports Bureau, the statistical whizzes, what great player of the past most closely parallels Ramirez? And we'll show you the answer in a minute. Lifted down the right side, looks like it'll make the seats, and it does. All right, so who is it? It's another former Red Sox guy who also played for Connie Mack's Philadelphia A's, Jimmy Fox.
Guy they call Double X. Now, I never faced him, though many of my colleagues will kiddingly say you probably did, but kind of looks like the profile is similar in that Fox not known as a Gold Glover, but as a power hitter, and also with an average well over 300. See, Brian Stokes right now is pitching Manny Ramirez. If you had the fastball, that is the best chance you have. Now let's see what this at bat turns out to be, because he fouled off a fastball late, he fouled off another fastball late, and then the tendency is, well, let's trick him with a curve, and that's where he does his damage. Good two-strike breaking ball hitters. Best spot to pitch Manny Ramirez is up and in with fastball, pitch after pitch.
Fastball down and in. You know, you look at Manny, it's kind of a funky situation from the neck up. You got the dreadlocks, you got the batting helmet that's covered with grime and pine tar and whatever else, and you got the little combination bandana and skull cap. There's a lot going on up there.
Yes, there is.
The 2-2. Full count. Casey Blake will be next. And that'll make the seats as well. Still 3-2 to Manny.
Yeah, great hitters foul off the pitcher's pitches, the fastballs, and Manny again, another fastball that he was a little late on, fouled it the other way. That any kind of an off-speed pitch or a mistake, he's right on time. You very seldom see Manny Ramirez get caught out in front of a pitch.
Stokes shakes one off, now has the sign he wants, and another 3-2 pitch. And another foul. Manny Ramirez, as you may know, is a product of George Washington High School in Washington Heights, New York, which is in Upper Manhattan. A legendary figure there as a high school player. Began his major league career with the Cleveland Indians. Tremendous numbers for them in the 90s before moving on to the Red Sox. And then eventually the Dodgers last year. And he continues to battle with Stokes. Here is a whip it thin Manny Ramirez back in his high school days.
And he had the fast hip action even back then that he has right now.
Three-time All-City selection back in '91, the New York City Public School Player of the Year when he hit a mere .615 with 14 homers in 22 games.
See, this is where you get frustrated because it's logical that you're saying, well, he keeps fouling off the fastball. Let me try to trick him. But until a hitter shows you that he can pull that fastball, it's still your best bet. Keep on pouring it in there.
And this will be the 10th pitch of the at-bat. And Manny works the walk, and I underline works the walk.
Yeah. Yep. You showed that high school footage, and again, there are some similarities when you see the high school Manny Ramirez. See him rotate through the hitting area, and almost the same action right now, some 20 years later, roughly.
Well, he's always had a magnificent swing. It would be charitable to conclude, and illogical as well, that he made a one-time mistake.
Yes.
If you know what the drug in question is, if you know what HCG does and how it's used generally when one is coming off a steroid cycle. They count 1-1 to Blake. It would be a monumental bit of bad luck to have done such a thing only once in one's life and be caught that one time. Breaking ball, cut on and missed.
Casey Blake with an interesting spectator tonight. So many players in the big leagues today come out of great college programs. Casey was a shocker at Wichita State, and his coach, Mean Gene Stevenson, who's had a very successful program there for years. Players like Darren Dreifert, who was a top pick of the Dodgers, Mike Lansing, longtime infielder in the big leagues.
He was interviewed during a game earlier this week here at Citi Field, and I think I heard him say that he sent some 200 players from his program into professional baseball. Now, not all of them made the major leagues, but some 200 players who had been his at Wichita State eventually signed pro contracts. The 2-2 pitch. A big chopper. Charging is Cora. Nice play, and the throw on the run to Tatis for the out. The runners move up to second and third.
Yeah, and Casey Blake, similar to his third base coach Larry Bowa on a different level. Larry Bowa, you know, turned out to be a terrific big league player, was cut from his high school team many times. Casey Blake is one of those guys. Look at all the big league teams he's been with that teams just give up on him, say the guy can't play, and he just keeps coming back and playing good baseball on winning teams.
He has an intangible quality that managers prize. Ball one to Loney. He's a winning player. He's a mature player, a steadying influence on younger players. Kind of guy you want not just in your lineup, but in your clubhouse.
Yeah, the Indians very close to going to the World Series a few years ago, and he was a part of that team.
Loney has flied out and walked twice.
I guess the prize in talking about Gene Stevenson would be Joe Carter. Joe Carter came out of Wichita State. Great player with the Indians and the Blue Jays, World Series hero.
Hit the series-ending home run in Toronto in Game 6 in 1993 against the Phillies. 3-0 the count to Loney. First base is open. Russell Martin is on deck. And he walks him on 4 pitches. It's the 3rd Dodger walk of the inning. The first was issued by Mish to Furcal, and Stokes has walked Ramirez and Loney coming out of the bullpen.
And has Jerry Manuel shaking his head. I know it's Dan Warthen out of the Met dugout, the pitching coach, to talk to him. Writers in spring training will customarily ask players, what are your goals this year? You know, how many games you want to win? What are your goals for a batting average? And whenever they asked me that, I never was able to achieve it. But I always, said I'd like to start 40 games, pitch 280 innings, but I would like to go through an entire season without walking a man unintentionally. Never been able to do that. Wouldn't that be nice, though, if you could? I mean, there's Greg Maddux and Fergie Jenkins, who are the poster pitchers for guys who, combination of power control, struck out over 3,000 but walked fewer than 1,000.
Martin 1 for 3 with an RBI tonight. Takes ball 1. But aren't there times when perhaps you don't officially issue an intentional walk,
right,
but where you simply want to walk the guy? It's good pitching to walk the guy in a certain situation. Doesn't mean your control has failed you.
As they did to Manny in his last at bat. Not this at bat, the one before that, with first base open.
Furcal at third, Manny at second, Loney now at first. All of them walked in this Dodgers 6th. And it's 2-0 to Martin. Stokes pours that one in there for a strike. Hit hard. Cora backhands it, plants his feet, throws, and gets it. So the Dodgers leave the bases loaded. And as we go to the bottom of the 6th, it's still 8-2 LA. Out in left field, Manny just being Manny on another night at the ballpark. 2 for 2 with a couple of walks. Pitch sequence from his last time up.
And Manny being Manny at the plate as well. Pushes him off the plate. And a couple good pitches here by Stokes to get ahead 1-2. Now that one way off the plate. And then check out the good pitches that Manny fouls off, but they're all away from him. He never came back inside again, target outside, and eventually, as you pointed out, Manny worked a base on balls after fouling off several tough pitches. But for years, the theory has been high and tight, low and away, and not enough pitches high and tight to Manny Ramirez, which is the best zone to pitch most power hitters in.
Ryan Church is 0 for 2. His ground out produced a run in the 3rd. Pops this one back of short, and Furcal ranges to the line for the catch. So here's the catcher, Omir Santos, with Alex Cora on deck, and then the pitcher spot. This will be Randy Wolf's 100th pitch. Breaking ball for a called strike 2.
Yeah, and these are the stress-free innings. Not that it's easy, but you get through the 5th. You got enough. You got the innings in to qualify for a win. You got a 6-run lead.
And a little pop. Hudson in behind Loney for the catch. 2 quick outs in the New York 6th. Don't forget MLB Tonight and every night throughout the season. Those live look-ins, all the wrap-ups of everything going on, lively discussion from our panelists, which occasionally includes you.
A roster full of left-handers.
Yeah, we really do have a lefty-heavy rotation there. You and McGrain and Leiter.
Dan Plesac,
yeah.
Mitch Williams. I mentioned the stress-free innings because now in Randy Wolf's case, he knows any kind of trouble, Joe Torre will go to his bullpen. But of course, his mentality, you would hope, would be, from the Dodgers standpoint, is finish the game, fill up the innings, and give that bullpen that's been such a big part of the Dodgers' success, give them a night off tonight.
The 1-1 pitch to Cora. Another slow breaking ball in for a strike. Daniel Murphy is on deck in case Cora should reach. Murphy would bat for Stokes. Two and two. Fouled away. More bad news for the Mets. The Phillies lead at home against Cincinnati 8-6 in the sixth. If the scores here and there should hold up, the Mets would trail by 5.5. Not only is New York's record now under 500, they're a largely punchless team, with Reyes missing, the spark plug at the top, and with Beltran and Delgado missing from the middle of the order. Blake at third, across the diamond to take care of Cora, and the Mets go in order in the sixth. On to the seventh at Citi Field. Randy Wolf and the Dodgers leading them 8-2.
Thursday Night Baseball is driven by Chevy, an American Revolution, and sponsored in part by We and State Farm. At home or away, State Farm is there. Call, click, or visit and start saving today.
Bottom of the Dodger order in the top of the seventh. Hudson, Kemp, and Wolf.
Ouch.
You said it. Ouch is right. Hudson trying to gather himself here, and Torre coming out to check on his second baseman.
Yeah, infielders with speed don't mind getting hit in the ribs, but they don't want to get hit in the legs. That's how they make their living.
And there was nothing purposeful about that. Pitch simply got away from Stokes. If he's not good to go in an 8-2 game, this might be the time to say take the rest of the night off.
Which is what it looks like he'll do.
And a respectful round of applause from the Citi Field crowd as Hudson hobbles off.
Yeah, if it catches you on the outside of the knee, right on that bone, boy, that is the most, you know, there's no padding there, no muscle tissue.
Let's see where it got him.
Yeah, it actually looked like on the back leg.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Just above the knee, back leg. Might be able to hear it here. Not only hear the impact, but the reaction from Hudson. Ugh.
Juan Castro, one of Joe Torre's reserves, will go in and run for Hudson.
And then we assume remain in the game. Here's Kemp, who has singled twice and lined to short. Up high to him. You know, we were talking about the ticket price structure at Citi Field, and both New York ballparks, especially Yankee Stadium, but also Citi Field, have some very expensive seats. And what you see more and more is what you're seeing from the center field camera right here. This is a good crowd tonight at Citi Field. But very often when you watch a ball game, whether it's here or elsewhere, especially in these economic times, some of the best seats, the seats that are most frequently on camera, appear empty. They appear empty because they are empty. Right. And so it creates the atmosphere or the effect as you watch the game at home that there are fewer people in attendance than there actually are. It actually kind of deflates the atmosphere a bit.
They need some of the effects that they used in the natural, right? When they had the cardboard fans. And there again is an example of Stokes, why that pitch to Hudson was not intentional. He has a very long arm motion. There's not a lot of wrist action in it.
By the way, when you saw some of those other empty seats up further away from the field, that's because the score is 8-2 and the game is dragged on. Those seats were occupied when the game began. So now Wolf will bat in an obvious sacrifice situation and pushes this one foul. A hit batter and a walk put 2 Dodgers on with nobody out in the 7th. So most of the coach seats are filled, but there are vacancies in first class tonight.
Get a meal with those two, don't you? I would think.
Actually, back of the plate, those
Right.
luxury seats in all the new ballparks. Yeah. If you want, you can retreat to some private dining area. Wolf bunts foul for the second time, 1-2. And there are those who say, with some justification, that it creates a kind of caste system within the ballpark. I mean, there were always box seats and bleacher seats, but there wasn't such a stark division between the wealthier attendees and the so-called average fans. And Wolf is a strikeout victim, bunting foul 3 times. He's normally a better bunter than that.
Take a look at Stokes' motion. I mentioned he's a long armer. You don't see a lot of wrist action. Watch sort of a stiff long arm motion, and loses his footing a little bit right there, and the control not particularly sharp. I always and still do when I give clinics, feel like the best way to really find your natural release point or arm action is, as a pitcher, is to take a lot of ground balls and throw like an infielder. Get your hand up in the throwing position much better.
Furcal has been aboard all 4 times, 2 doubles, a single, and a walk. You know, obviously, everyone understands that the world changes and the economic realities of running a modern sports franchise. But part of the appeal of baseball, especially sports in general, but baseball especially through the years, was that it was entirely possible that a cab driver could find himself seated next to a bank president. It was a great leveler. It was a common denominator. It was a common language. That isn't as much the case anymore.
I signed a World Series ticket the other day at memorabilia, and the World Series ticket was $12. And now on opening day, my 11-year-old grandson sat behind home plate and ordered sushi. Not a hot dog, sushi.
That's just not right.
No.
The 1-2 pitch. Now the least expensive seat here is $11. The World Series in which you pitched, the ticket was $12.
Right.
65 against the Dodgers. All right, comparisons. Shea and Citi Field. Not that much difference between the standard tickets, but those premium tickets took quite a leap.
You mentioned 1965 when I was privileged to be a part of the Minnesota Twins, and we won the pennant that year, which stopped the Yankee streak of 5 years in a row. Our total payroll was just a touch over $600,000 as a team, 25-man roster. As you said, times change.
And Calvin Griffith winced even when he had to sign those checks.
Right.
2-2 now to Furcal. Castro running for Hudson as at second. He was hit by a pitch. Actually, Castro wasn't. Hudson was, had to be removed from the game. And Kemp, who walked, is at first. And Furcal goes down swinging. First time he's been retired tonight. Elliot Kalb, Mr. Stats, working in the booth with us, apparently always carries as some sort of talisman a ticket from the 1978 World Series between the Dodgers and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, 1978. $12. Now, that probably wasn't the top ticket. Where'd you sit, Elliot? He's pointing off toward left field. So somewhere in the left field seats at Yankee Stadium, but still $12 for a World Series game. A strike to Ethier. Juan Pierre is on deck. He's going to bat for Manny Ramirez. It's a shame that Pierre has been sent to the bench with Ramirez returning, but somebody's got to go, and they've got the good young players in Kemp and Ethier. Has to go as in go to the bench, not leave the team, because Pierre performed so admirably in Ramirez's absence. For a while, he was hitting over 400 and really sparking this offense.
Frustrated early in the year because the Dodgers paid him a hefty contract, brought him over here to play, and then suddenly with Manny Ramirez here, he just sat. But kept himself ready and produced when called on.
The 1-2 to Ethier. Foul tip back into the glove of Santos. So Stokes actually strikes out the side after hitting the first man and walking the second. Let's go back to the studio for an MLB Authentic Collection Diamond Demo. As the Mets come up in the bottom half of the seventh, Daniel Murphy is going to bat for Brian Stokes, and a couple of changes for the Dodgers. There's Murphy, who will come on as the pinch hitter. Juan Castro stays in the game after pinch running for Orlando Hudson, and Castro will be at second base. And another Juan Pierre is in left field, and he'll assume Manny Ramirez's spot on the batting order and lead off the Dodger eighth. Wolf's 0-1 pitch to Murphy. In there for strike two. Right after this hitter, we're going to flash back to that World Series you were talking about. 44 years ago, 1965, the Twins and the Dodgers just missed the corner with the 0-2 pitch. You faced Sandy Koufax 3 times in that series, right?
I did.
Beat him in game 2 in Minnesota, and then he was just unbeatable in games 5 and 7.
One of the humorous stories in that game is the reason I faced Sandy Koufax in game 2 was because game 1 was a Jewish holiday, and Koufax opted not to pitch. Don Drysdale pitched. I'll tell you what, Wolf doing a great job right here pitching to the scoreboard with a nice lead, a lot of fastballs, a lot of strikes. Not as tentative as he was early.
Strikes out the pinch hitter, Daniel Murphy.
But Don Drysdale started game 1, and we knocked him around pretty good. When Walter Alston went out to take the ball from him in the 4th inning, Drysdale looked at Walter Alston and said, "Bet you wish I was Jewish, don't you?" Because he wouldn't have started game
If he had
1.
been, then Claude Osteen would have gotten the start. Had to go to the 3rd guy.
Right.
Castillo 0 for 2 with a walk. So you and Koufax hooked up in game 7. Both of you on 2 days rest, right?
Yes, and I think after the 4th inning, Sandy threw very few curveballs. Of course, after the next year, he retired because of that arthritic elbow.
Castillo with a drive into right center field, and that one is one hop and over the wall and into the bullpen for a 1-out double.
Citi Field a little similar to Yankee Stadium. Those of you that followed the statistics, how the ball carries to right center. Balls hit well here to left don't carry, but anything out toward right, and this is an example of it. Pitched down and away, and Castillo drives it to the opposite field all the way out to the warning track by the bullpen. This ball carried a long ways.
The deepest dimension here is not straightaway center, which is 408. It's 415, which is more toward right center. That ball hopped up over the fence in between the 415 sign and the 378 marker in straightaway right. And the double by Castillo finishes Wolf, who works 6 1/3 and leaves with an 8-2 lead. Here it is, Jim, and I imagine it's with a combination of pride and pain that you look at this. You came out at the losing end, but you pitched well against Sandy Koufax.
I think that was probably Lou Johnson right there in Game 7, taking it off the left field foul. 3 consecutive hits on 3 pitches gave him a 2-0 lead, and he could have sacked up the bats right then. It was quite an awesome experience going up against, in my baseball lifetime, the greatest pitcher that I've ever seen.
There he was, striking out the late Bob Allison for the final out to complete what I recall was a 3-hit shutout.
And no curveballs after the 4th inning when he had just a little bit of damage there. Here's a guy with a great fastball and live on.
Slender James McDonald coming in for the new era pitching change. He's 2-1 with the Dodgers, ERA of 5.33. He's made 14 appearances for Joe Torre, 4 of them starts. That's where he's been knocked around a little bit. As a reliever, his ERA is 1.50. So he faces Nick Evans here.
Boy,
and gets ahead of him 1-2.
Good looking curveball. Talking about Koufax's curveball, that was one of those good old fashioned 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock straight down.
Comes back with the fastball and blows it by him upstairs.
And you mentioned the difficulty maybe in starting is that when you get a young pitcher and you tell him he's going to start in 4 days, he gets a little bit worked up in anticipation, whereas when you bring him in relief, very little chance to get nervous. You give him the ball, boom, and his natural ability comes out a little bit better, and that's sometimes a good way to get a young pitcher started in the big leagues is as a reliever in these stress-free situations.
So here's Wright, who was 2 for 3 against Wolf, pair of singles. Castillo at second with 2 down in the Mets 7th. McDonald trying to keep things in order for Randy Wolf and let Wolf get out of here with his 4th win against 3 defeats instead of his usual no decision. Soft breaking ball turns right away. 1-1. Randy Wolf looking on. Leaves with a 6-run cushion, hoping his bullpen doesn't betray him as it has so often this season. We mentioned earlier his bullpen has blown 7 potential victories for him, the most of any starting pitcher in the majors, and it's not even close. Next highest total is 4. So he has 12 no decisions this year, speaking of Wolf, in 18 previous outings. And Wright takes the walk. Here's the line on Wolf, at least to this point. Castillo at second base is his responsibility should he score. You know, looking at Wright at the plate in that situation, the 4 base hits he's gotten the last 2 nights may have calmed him a little bit, made him a little less anxious. He didn't chase anything out of the strike zone there. He was jumping at pitches for a while when he was mired in that slump. Here's Sheffield, 2 for 3, RBI single, a flyout, and a bullet of a double to left center.
Yeah, this is the kind of matchup Gary Sheffield loves if James McDonald doesn't get his curveball over. Very few fastballs that are going to intimidate Gary Sheffield or get by him.
There's the breaking ball inside. That is a big curveball that he throws to go with a very good fastball, a live fastball. There it is, and Sheffield fouls it back. breaking ball is a called strike 3. Delayed call from Marty Foster leaves Gary Sheffield staring in disbelief. McDonald comes in and fans a couple. The Mets are done in the 7th. It's still 8-2 LA. A delayed call, it appeared, by Marty Foster on strike 3, and then a delayed ejection after we went to commercial. Gary Sheffield, who at first was just staring into the distance, had his say-so and was tossed.
And the reason he's tossed, you see the catcher, Russ Martin catch the ball at low, and he's going at it with Marty Foster, but oftentimes where a catcher catches those pitches, it looks like it's low, but when it actually crossed the knee, and there's the ejection. When it came across the plate, remember the catcher is some 5-6 feet behind home plate. And in Marty Foster's opinion, when it crossed home plate, it was higher than the knees or at the knees.
Here's Juan Pierre for his first at bat. He replaced Manny Ramirez in the field in the bottom of the 7th. Tim Redding is the new Met pitcher. With Sheffield having been tossed, Tatis moves from first base to right field. Daniel Murphy, who had pinch hit earlier in the inning, in the previous inning, stays in the game now to play first base. Redding was 1-3 with an ERA of about 7 in 9 starts for the Mets before being essentially demoted to the bullpen. Juan Pierre slaps one just foul the opposite way. You know, you look at Juan Pierre, not many, there are some, but not many modern ball players wear their uniform pants the way Pierre does. And some of us appreciate this particular style. Slow roller. Pierre runs very well, getting over his Redding, however, and Murphy just into the game makes the nice play, shoveling it to him to retire Pierre. Hey folks, you want to be part of the State Farm Home Run Derby? Go to sfcallyourshot.com to find out how the gold ball ticket can put you right in the middle of the action. sfcallyourshot.com. Gold ball ticket right in the middle of the action. What does that mean? You get to take a turn at bat on the Home Run Derby? You get to shag flies?
We'll have to research that.
It's intriguing. Here's Casey Blake. 1 for 4 on the night.
Interesting, you mentioned Juan Pierre wearing his pants up around knee high, and we showed the clip of the late Bob Allison striking out against Sandy Koufax to end the 1965 World Series. Bob Allison rolled those pants up almost above his knee because he felt like he got the benefit of the borderline call, where Gary Sheffield got called out wearing the track style pants down around the ankles.
You know, that actually makes sense. Allison wore them high even by the standards of the day.
Oh, yeah. Rolled them way up because he said it gave the umpires a better look at where the knee level was, and he felt he got the benefit of some low pitches.
Sort of like a boxer wearing the trunks as high as possible. Right. Hey, no hitting below the belt.
Right.
1-2 to Casey Blake. Dodgers batting in the 8th and leading 8-2. Jerry Manuel, who played his ball in an earlier era, wears them rather high. That is a fair ball by the diving Murphy. Tatis picks it up, and Blake's going to be content with a single. Murphy was playing the right-handed hitting Blake way off the first base line, and Blake just shot it between him and the bag.
Casey Blake, by design, even though he's a cleanup hitter, you'd look for those kind of guys to turn and pull the ball. Takes it the opposite way. As Bob said, Murphy playing just off the line, could not knock it down.
That brings up James Loney, who has walked 3 times tonight and flied out in his only official at bat. 1 out, 1 on in the 8th. At the knees for a strike. 0-2.
Trying to think of things that happen in baseball, trends. When did they actually start? We mentioned the great Frank Robinson several innings ago, and of course Frank was known for the old stirrup socks of wearing the very high stirrups where you saw a lot of white, and then that all of a sudden somebody started wearing their pants exceptionally long, which they've taken it to a new level these days. I can't recall where it actually started.
It's been a while. Well, there's an example.
Yeah. I guess it's more for comfort because it doesn't look like you would expect a baseball uniform to look like, or a player wearing a baseball uniform the way you would expect them to.
And here's Loney going the opposite way and dumping one in front of Evans. That winds up as a double. Blake winds up at third. And the Dodgers already leading 8-2, threaten for more in the 8th.
Yeah, and they do it this way. It's not that they drive the ball and impress you with awesome power. They just poke it the opposite way. They seem to have gotten so many hits like that tonight. That is their, what is it, about their 11th, 13th hit. And it seems like a lot of them have been to the opposite field, of the soft variety.
And now they're going to walk Russell Martin. He too of the extra long pants school, as is the pitcher Redding, and we saw David Wright at third base. So an intentional walk, and Juan Castro, who came into the game after Orlando Hudson was hit by a pitch and had to leave. Castro will bat for the first time. Blake is at third. Loney at second. Martin with the intentional pass at first. Castro to the plate for the first time tonight. 3:33 in limited duty. Cuts on the first one for strike one. Dodgers threatening to put it all but completely out of reach here in the 8th. And Castro goes the opposite way for another base hit for the Dodgers. 1 run scores, a second being waved home, and they lead it 10-2. So Castro making the most of his opportunity. And the Dodgers, again, with so many of these opposite field hits, they're not bludgeoning the Mets to death. They're nicking them bit by bit to death tonight.
As Castro did there, a little slider up in the strike zone, and got to make Don Mattingly, the Dodger hitting coach, feel good. Nobody puts more time and effort into preparing hitters. There's Donnie Ballgame, who made a name for himself over in the other ballpark in New York.
A strike to Matt Kemp.
But there is so much more preparation today in today's game. I mean, you used to show up about 5 o'clock, take batting practice, and go play. Now players will get here at noon. They look at video. They have hitters meetings. They go over every pitcher, what their approach ought to be, and you can see what the Dodgers have done tonight. Other than Manny pulling that hanging breaking ball from Hernandez early in the game, most have been the opposite field. staying back, waiting.
Well, we're told that 8 of the 14 Dodger hits tonight have gone the opposite way. There was a period of time where you could make a strong case in the mid-'80s that Don Mattingly was the best all-round player in baseball, and apparently headed for the Hall of Fame. Foul back, but a bit like Dale Murphy, let's say, with the Braves, his period of extreme productivity was shorter than you might have thought, and so he comes up short of Hall of Fame numbers in the estimation of most. But there was a 5 or 6 year period where Mattingly might have been the best player in baseball.
No question. Which makes what Sandy Koufax did so much more impressive, because there was a pitcher with 165 lifetime wins, but was so dominant over 6 years that you could not deny the fact that he was a Hall of Famer.
Well, he was like baseball's version of Gale Sayers in football. You didn't see much, but you saw enough to know.
Right.
The 1-2 to Kemp. Into center field. This is going to drop. The Dodgers pour it on. It's 11-2 with runners at the corners and 1 out as Martin scores. 3rd hit of the night for Kemp.
Pitch down and in, fights it off the other way, and just the other side of center field to qualify for another opposite field hit.
15 Dodger hits, 9 of them to the opposite field. James McDonald, a relatively rare at bat, takes a strike. Redding is not exactly working his way out of the doghouse here.
I mentioned when we went over the scouting report about Randy Wolf that for me the best way for a pitcher to approach pitching in the big leagues today is like Wolf does. Fastball, changeup, a lot of variation between the speeds, add and subtract. I mean, my favorite pitcher in the big leagues, Cole Hamels, when he's healthy, and like Johan Santana, that pitch that way. But with Redding and a lot of the pitchers that are sinker slider, there's not enough variety in the speed, and hitters can just fight those pitches off and take them the other way.
McDonald, with a somewhat disinterested at bat, it appeared, goes down looking. Just a reminder, as all you folks know, the All-Star game is Tuesday night from St. Louis. You can catch all the action on Fox, the live game telecast, at 8 Eastern and 5 Pacific. Don Mattingly was an All-Star 6 times. Met All-Stars are David Wright, Johan Santana, their closer K-Rod, and Carlos Beltran, who can't play because he's hurt or likely can't play. Chad Billingsley, Jonathan Broxton, and Orlando Hudson are the Dodger All-Stars. Wright will start at third base for the National League. Rafael Furcal slaps it to second. Castillo throws him out. The Dodgers tack on 3 more in the 8th. And this moves into the category of a laugher. Not for Redding and the Mets. As we took a look back at some of which transpired tonight, Blake is still at third for the Dodgers, but it's Blake DeWitt, not Casey Blake, as Joe Torre gets a chance to use some of his bench tonight. McDonald back to work in the bottom of the 8th, facing Fernando Tatis. The 11-2 score has improved the traffic pattern around Citi Field as fans make their way to the exits in droves now. Fastball misses, 2-1. McDonald with a nice fluid motion.
Oh boy. He's a little more graceful, but I wonder if there's some old Dodger fans still around that's saying, is that Don Newcomb?
Newcomb was a bigger man, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
McDonald's very slender.
Really, but whip it like arm action.
Fastball inside, 3-2. The official attendance tonight was 39,865, most of whom have now taken their leave. And Tatis hangs in. Tatis has flied to deep left, doubled, and struck out. And he draws a leadoff walk in the 8th.
Nice situation for Joe Torre to give a young pitcher like McDonald with an 11-2 lead. There's plenty of wiggle room there. Get a few innings under his belt. We mentioned the reason the Dodgers record is so good is their outstanding bullpen. They had to put Ronald Belisario on the disabled list with a tender elbow, but they still have Troncoso and Broxton, the all-star hard thrower.
Down low to Ryan Church. Oh for 3 tonight. Picked up an RBI with a ground out in the 3rd. Called strike 1-1. Broxton, of course, has by and large been lights out as the closer for the Dodgers. That's why he's part of the All-Star team. But a big key to this year's team's success in LA has been the work of the middle relievers and setup men. Belisario was outstanding before he had to be placed on the DL. Troncoso has been very effective.
When you look at big league teams, and I always think back from covering the Yankees for so many years, is that what made them good in the Joe Torre era is when Mariano Rivera was actually a setup man. They had Ramiro Mendoza, Mike Stanton, Jeff Nelson.
Possible double play ball. There's one. There's two.
You know, the strength of their team. And when you analyze teams today, all you have to do is look at their bullpens. Now, the Phillies are still in first place, but if they had Brad Lidge having the kind of year he had last year, they'd be up by 10 games. And that's the difference in the Red Sox and the Yankees, is the Red Sox have some depth and some quality in their 7th and 8th inning to get to Papelbon.
You know, you look at the Yankees, though, hot now, started the night just a game behind the Red Sox, and that despite the fact that they've gone 0-8 head-to-head. That's a 16-game swing, and yet the Yankees are only 1 game back overall in the standings. In the air to center field, Kemp is settling under it. That retires Santos and the Mets in the 8th. 11-2 LA as we head for the 9th. A lot going on in the majors tonight. Not far from here at our MLB Network studios. Baseball Tonight will come to you. MLB Tonight. Don't want to get the wrong title. That title already belongs to somebody else. MLB Tonight. The Rays kept Holiday from winning his 11th. They announced the last members of the All-Star teams, Shane Victorino and Brandon Inge, being added by fan vote on the internet at MLB.com. So all that and more tonight on MLB Tonight. They may revoke my blazer if I get that wrong again.
And Doc Halladay, Roy Halladay, his name may be in the news quite a bit here in the next week to 10 days.
Met changes in the field as we move to the 9th. Jeremy Reed is now in center field. Ryan Church moves from center to right. Fernando Tatis plays his third position. He started at first, moved to right. Now he moves from right to third. And Andre Ethier starts it against Reading in the ninth.
Mentioned Roy Halladay, who might be the most desirable pitcher and the best pitcher on the planet today. Lost 3-2. But remember when the Red Sox acquired Josh Beckett, part of the deal was you took Mike Lowell also to reduce the Marlins payroll. And it looks like the Blue Jays may try to use a power play and saying, if you want Halladay, take Vernon Wells, because he has been quite an underachiever for all the money that they're paying. And this guy could be one of the great all-around players in the game.
He's had some very good years. This is not one of them.
Right.
The Blue Jays have made it clear, though, that they don't want to conduct a fire sale. They've got to be blown away by the offer. There's a base hit up the middle by Ethier to start the Dodger ninth. They're not going to move Halladay and or Wells just to move them. They've got to get a terrific offer from somebody before they pull the trigger.
Kind of reminds me, I think it was Whitey Herzog when Whitey said they asked him about his ball club, and he said, we're two players from going to the World Series, Koufax and Mantle, or something like that. And that's can you imagine Halladay and Vernon Wells, if Wells got up to his normal production, what they could do for a ball club.
Juan Pierre swings on the first pitch, pops one into shallow left. Evans comes racing in and can't make the play. So that'll go as a base hit. Ethier to second, and Pierre aboard on a ball that another left fielder might have made the play on.
Yeah, you can't really fault Nick Evans. He's playing out of position. Mentioned all the injuries the Mets have had this year, and they have to just piece things together and play guys that normally not used to playing left field. Pierre, with his head down, thinks it's an easy out. And a nice effort, but again, the result of playing so deep in left field.
With a left-handed batter in Pierre, who is not a power hitter at the plate, but Evans again protecting against the ball hit over his head.
You mentioned, and we showed the highlight earlier of Bob Allison, played behind me in Minnesota, outstanding right fielder, and we'd have some good sparring matches. Eventually played left field, but before Tony Oliva came along, he played some right field. And when I would start a game, I always liked to go around to my defense. You didn't have all the sophisticated scouting reports that they do today. And you'd talk to the players about where you'd like to play certain players. Interesting, they just showed Al Weiss on the scoreboard here, the former Met, but he was a member of the Chicago White Sox for a while. Didn't have any power of the opposite field. And I'd say, Bob, if Al Weiss gets a hit, I want to see your number. I want it to go over your head, because if he does, it's my fault. I made a mistake. But I want to guard against those little off opposite field bloops, because chances are you made a good pitch. It was down and away, hit it off the end of the bat, blooped it out there. You'd like to see those caught.
This is Blake DeWitt, by the way, batting for the first time tonight to replace Casey Blake at third base. 2 on, nobody out. And the 2-2 pitch. Called strike 3. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times the very sophisticated scouting reports that are available to both pitcher and hitter these days, and how many more meetings there are in the use of video and a far more formal approach to things than there used to be. But for a thinking man's pitcher like yourself, how much of that was actually retained without all the modern aids? Didn't you know when Roger Maris came to bat what he had done the last 15 times you had faced him? Didn't you know how you got him out, or what he hit off you if he got to you?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I think today there is so much scouting report-itis, and that's why you see pitchers struggle early in the game and the pitch counts go up, because they've gone over, this guy can't hit this pitch, he can't hit that pitch, and you make it so complicated.
Loney pokes one into center field. Coming on is Reed, just into the game to make the catch. I'm not saying it isn't useful. Obviously it is useful, but you can't be a slave to it.
No. I used to love to tell Brian Downing, who was my catcher in Chicago, it was his first year as a catcher, and I'd say, let's see how many outs we can get. There's a nice running catch by Reed in center field. See how many outs we can get to start the game without even giving signs. Just throw all fastballs. Sometimes you get into the third inning, and then if you had a close game in the seventh, you had more stuff to go to.
Russell Martin now. 1 for 4 with an intentional walk. Had an RBI single back in the fourth.
And just to put that in perspective, lest anyone should think that I would say, you know, they don't do it as well today as we did years ago. I believe it is more difficult to pitch today than at any time that I've been around baseball. Laugher for those two, Joe Torre and Don Mattingly. You have the light bats, the laminated bats. The ball is made better. The ballparks are smaller. The strike zone is smaller, and it all adds up to being a much more conducive to the hitter. Baseball wants more offense in it. It's more difficult to pitch today. You don't get the low strike.
Ballparks generally smaller. This is not one of them. This is an exception. A definite pitcher's park. This ball is well hit by Martin, but Reed has a beat on it and makes the catch to retire the side in the top of the ninth. Dodgers lead by 9. Claudio Vargas, who pitched for the Mets last year and went 3-2 for New York, missed most of this season up until now with elbow tendonitis. This is just his second appearance, as you can see. Threw a perfect inning earlier in this series for the Dodgers against the Mets. So he's called upon to mop this one up, with the Dodgers leading 11-2. The Mets apparently will lose for the 10th time in their last 13 games. And in most of those games, they've been all but punchless.
Yeah, they got 5 runs last night and made it really sound like it was quite an offensive outbreak.
And almost gave it back with K-Rod on the mound as the Dodgers rallied in the ninth to within 5-4 and had 2 men on with 1 out before Ethier grounded into a double play to end it. Phillies leading over Cincinnati. So if that holds up, the Mets drop to 5.5 back, which is far from insurmountable with half a season left. The concern is the way this team is playing now and the health of some of their key players. A ball to Cora, looking for his first hit of the night. Daniel Murphy on deck, occupying the 9th spot in the order after having pinch hit earlier in the game. Line drive, center field. Kemp coming on, has to short hop it. And a base hit for Cora.
Off the end of the bat, nice job by Matt Kemp to short hop it and keep it in front of it. And keep the double play in order.
So here's Murphy, who struck out as a pinch hitter in the 7th. With the Mets floundering under 500 and falling further behind in the race in the National League East, naturally the buzz on the talk shows and around the ballpark is, will Omar Minaya make a move? Will they make some kind of trade? But there's a school of thought that says that the best move they can make is to wait for their key guys to come back. That what they have on the DL is better than anything they could get in return, and why make a rash trade where you have to give up too much for temporary help when that help might not be that significant. There's Omar Minaya, the Mets GM. Grounded toward third. Blake DeWitt gets the force, and that's all.
Yeah, if they were one player away, I mean, usually what managers and general managers do is the first, say, 50 games of the year, guys like Omar Minaya will look at their team and say, well, we came out of spring training with a particular team. Now, is this the team we thought we were going to have, or what do we need? And then you go out and get what you need, and you hope on the 1st of September that you're either in first place or have a chance to make a run. But the Mets are so many players away from being the kind of team that can contend because of the injuries.
Of course, 3 of those players are Reyes,
Right.
Beltran, and Delgado.
And you're not going to make one trade and replace those 3.
Minaya was on his cell phone when we caught a glimpse of him. Perhaps discussing a possible deal, or perhaps just making a late dinner reservation as this one drags on.
Good general managers, they work those phones, and you never know what might come up. I guess in New York baseball here in the last 10-12 years, Brian Cashman, general manager of the New York Yankees, on the phone with John Hart, I believe, and John is a member of our MLB team. We're talking about David Justice being with the Indians, and they couldn't get him any at-bats. And the next thing you know, Brian Cashman said, well, what would you like to have for Justice? Well, he ended up getting Ricky Leday, and David Justice was the most valuable player of the Yankees that year. So you work the phones, you never know what you might come up with.
Castillo tonight is 1 for 3, had a double his last time up. See if he committed himself here.
The rule of the umpire says, did he intend to swing? Was the intent there? And it certainly looked like it was.
And it is ruled a strike. 2-2. Fights that one off. Looks like Randy Wolf will get the victory tonight.
And
He'll go to 4-3.
You'll be his good luck charm.
Yep. He seems to win when I'm in the ballpark. 3 of his 4 victories this year.
They may sign you up there, the Dodgers.
Manny Ramirez, couple of hits, couple of walks, couple of RBIs tonight before being replaced by Juan Pierre late in the game.
Well, this game was decided rather early by a couple of key at-bats. One, Orlando Hudson in the first inning, but the Dodgers did such a good job against Livan Hernandez, being patient, just kind of pecking away and hitting the ball the opposite field, and puts 8 runs on the board in the first 4 innings.
Hudson had the 2-out bases loaded double in the first to turn a 1-0 lead into a 4-0 advantage, and now Castillo draws a walk. So he's 1 for 3 tonight with a couple of walks thrown in. Tonight's Chevy player of the game is Rafael Furcal of the Dodgers, who in his first 4 trips to the plate had 2 doubles, a single, and a walk, including this double that opened the game right on the chalk and led to a 4-run Dodger first. And whacked this one over Sheffield's head and right later in the game. All right, Claudio Vargas looking to end this thing, which he prolonged by walking Castillo. Now faces Evans. Fastball for a strike. Evans has had a tough night in left field, and he's 0 for 3 with a walk at the plate. Off the outside corner, 2-1. Throw, a strike.
That's what the 7 guys out behind him. You can see him pawing at the dirt, kicking at the dirt, or saying the same thing.
Bouncing ball toward the middle of the diamond. There is 1, there is 2, and that is that. So Joe Torre's club takes 2 out of 3 at Citi Field. They are 7.5 up on the Giants pending the outcome of the San Francisco game against the Padres tonight. The Mets figure to drop 5.5 back of the Phillies in the National League East after absorbing their 10th defeat in their last 13 games. A happy return to his native city and the place where he really made his name as a manager for Joe Torre.
And that's what the Dodgers have done so well this year, is win series as they have done here.
Just a reminder, folks, these are the national games coming up over the weekend. On Fox, the Yankees and the Angels on Saturday. We've got the Braves and the Rockies on MLB Network. TBS has the Dodgers and the Brewers, and the Sunday night game on ESPN is the Cardinals and the Cubs, all taking us to the All-Star break and the big game in St. Louis. So once again, the final score, the Dodgers 11 and the Mets 2. Next week on Thursday Night Baseball, it's Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, and the Brewers in Cincinnati to take on Dusty Baker's Reds. Up next on MLB Network, MLB Tonight, with Victor Rojas, Dan Plesac, Dave Valley, and Al Leiter. For Elliot Cow, Mr. Stats in the booth, for all the men and women in the truck, and for Jim Cott upstairs with me here at Citi Field, I'm Bob Costas, saying so long from New York.